Well, right now, getting out of downtown by way of 24 westbound through Jolton could be problematic. Got an injury crash, and the left lane is blocked. Over here on the South Loop, police reporting a crash 40 westbound at 2nd Avenue. Also 24 westbound near Murfreesboro Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day. My name is Matt Murphy. Conveniently enough, we hold court for the next 4 hours or so. It is about 3:07 in the afternoon, Central Time, Middle Tennessee time, on this Tuesday, April 15. I would call it tax day, but everybody got an extension, at least until November 3rd, unless you've already done the business and you've already done the paying, and in which case you're not that worried about April 15th anyway. It's the middle of the month. Some folks got paid today. I think we're among them here at in the friendly confines of Cumulus Media.
You guys get paid?
Yeah, believe it or not. I know you come in for free because you love it so much.
I got to get a new agent.
Yeah.
Well, I thought today's handshake and pat on the back was a little stiff.
You think?
Yeah.
You get those?
Yeah.
See, I negotiated out of those.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I just get blank stares. Of course, that's what I'm given, so maybe that's the reason why.
Occasionally, when I'm coming through the back door, I get the can I help you? It's like, I've been here 3 years. What do you mean, can you?
Do you work here?
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, deliveries to the back, sir. We'll deliver some news and some headlines and some fun and frivolity, and we'll try to educate you along the way as to what is going on in your world for the next 4 hours today. That's the voice of Ken Weaver. He's in News Closet B. He gathers the headlines. He delivers them twice an hour or when news breaks. Ken, that's I need an update from you. I hope it's not a curveball to you, but this situation out of Texas. It was an isolated event, the school shooting. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I understand, there was one student that was shot in the leg.
Okay.
And that the campus is secure, and that the district was working on reunification, between students and parents.
Well, it's always a scary thing when you hear about a shooting on a school campus. One, prays. You pray that they never happen first and foremost, but then obviously you pray that nobody gets hurt. But we don't have any outside of a shooting in the leg. That's it. That's all the info.
That's all I've seen so far, Brother Murphy.
Well, thank you, Ken Weaver. Update us as those details become available. Ken, along for the ride throughout the course of the afternoon, as is Chris Weber. He makes sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. Everybody doing well. By the way, how about this day? I mean, is this warm enough for you, Ken?
Nope.
Dadgummit.
Nope.
I mean, good Lord, do you just want summertime the whole year?
I want above 70 all the time.
Oh, well, I mean, it's close.
No, it's not.
I mean,
not with the wind.
No, it's not.
I just feel like Weaver's getting a little picky. I'm just saying, I think you're getting a little picky.
Yeah, well, this morning I had wishful thinking.
You wear shorts?
I might, yeah. My better half and I go out on our walk, and she's wearing a coat and long pants. I've got short pants and a T-shirt, and I regretted it about halfway away whenever we got to an open space, and here come the wind.
Yeah, the wind will get you. It got me this morning while I was throwing balls for the dogs. Yeah. And looking at these mutant, I need to put up a photo on the Murphy Show X Machine page.
Okay.
I've got these mutant cabbages that are growing in the backyard. They look like cabbages, but I don't think they're cabbages. And I want to know. I need somebody to tell me what they are. The dogs are very, very interested in peeing on them.
Where'd they come from?
We put out in this little area that's not really a garden, but it's like it was designed to be a little garden area in the backyard of the house we're renting in Mount Juliet. We put out these seeds.
Okay, so you planted them.
I assume that these are, but this is also the area where Erica dumps everything that the groundhogs get.
Ah, okay.
So there's a lot of, for the last year and a half, there's been a lot of seed-based products that have been going on in there. And so I don't know if this is coming from the kitchen or if it is coming from the seeds, or if it's coming from the birds, or if it's coming from the groundhogs. I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, it could be like one of those Audrey 2s, for all I know. Y'all from Little Shop of Horrors?
Feed me.
Feed me. Feed me. I like that voice. Oh, man. Feed me. Oh, I love that. But I was a theater nerd back in the day. Always wanted to play the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep.
Or even better, Bill Murray's character. If y'all don't remember, Steve Martin played the dentist.
Yep.
Bill Murray played the guy that went to the dentist that liked the pain. Mm-hmm. and it was frustrating Steve Martin because he couldn't make him hurt. He couldn't make him squeal. Anyway, I bet you didn't have Little Shop of Horrors on your bingo card today on the Matt Murphy Show. Now, did you? Speaking of the Little Shop of Horrors, let's talk about the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C. The leftist media are the leftist in the United States of America, if CNN, #NeverCNN, is any evidence, if the leftist in Washington, D.C. are any evidence, they are so incredibly concerned about this one illegal alien that they claim is from Maryland. So much so, and this is such an example. I don't mean to oversimplify because it's not a simple issue. Immigration issues are never simple. And sadly, we did not get ourselves into this situation overnight. We're not going to extract ourselves overnight, although the Trump administration is doing a fair shot at it. Folks, if you were to believe ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, The Washington Post, The New York Times, and of course, #NeverCNN, and all of the rest of these leftist websites like Politico and Axios and whatnot, you would think, and I bet some of you listening to me right now, think that the guy that got sent to an El Salvador prison was from Maryland. Why wouldn't you? The media consistently describes him as a Maryland man. He is not a Maryland man. He lived in Maryland. He was born. Y'all want to know where he was born? Does anybody know where he was born? You know how he got here? Why do you think it is with all of the time, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I haven't been doing my job, because I always say that I'll watch CNN so you don't have to. And I guess I've not been watching enough, because surely in all of their study, in all of their coverage over this one dude, of the thousands of people that have been deported by the Trump administration, why are they focusing on this one guy? Because the rest of them have been done absolutely above board in the correct way. The only mistake that was made in this case was that they did not go back to court and rescind the retaining order that he had gotten in 2019 because he was involved in the Mexican gangs and because the Mexican gang activity, or rather the El Salvadorian gang activity, was still going on at the time that he had a deportation hearing. Oh, I'm gonna just dissect all of this for you in a manner in which the mainstream media won't. Why? Because they couch things, they present things intentionally to look as bad for the Trump administration as they can. There's no truth in that. Friends, if you think that I am being non-objective, if you think that I'm being subjective in my analysis at any point during this program, you pick up a damn telephone and you call us at 615-737-9986 and you call me out. You shout me down on social media. You call me out on the super text line. Any manner of your choosing. But those that sit on the in the media ivory towers, they are not to be called out, and they think that they can control the narrative in the way that they did 30 and 40 years ago. If you want to discuss the democratization of media, this is how you talk. They still live in a bubble where they think that because they don't tell us what they don't want to tell us, we don't find out about it. And so it is the case with this quote-unquote Maryland man who was wrongfully deported. Now, I don't pretend that every dot was, or every I was dotted and every T was crossed in the deportation of the El Salvadorian national, but I will say this. that his objection that he raised or was raised for him during his deportation hearing, y'all know that he had orders for deportation in 2019, right? You know that he came to the United States of America illegally in 2011, right? You know that he is a El Salvadorian national that was reportedly involved in all manner of gang activity down there during a time when everybody was involved in a gang down there. And you know that he argued in 2019 that he should not be deported to El Salvador because that gang activity was still going on, and because he was previously involved in gang activity, that he would be at risk if we deported him. And so the United States of America, being the generous country that we are, said, okay, fine, we won't deport you. Well, guess what's not happening in El Salvador anymore? Gang activity. So his reason to not be deported is gone. His illegal status hasn't changed. He's not a Maryland man. He's never been a Maryland man. He lives there illegally. Now, am I being unfair? Telling you the truth? Am I being unfair telling you the real deal on this guy? The media demands that you call him a Maryland fella. They demand that he was wrongfully removed from this country. They want to suggest to you that he's an American citizen. They want to so badly. They can't say it because they know it's not true. There are plenty of things that are true that they choose to not tell you because it does not fulfill the narrative that they want to complete, which is that Trump is somehow doing something wrong or against the flow of American constitutional or human rights, none of which is the case. Now, in the perfect world that the liberals demand on, what would have happened would be that this guy would go before a judge. The judge would look at his previous deportation order and the previous hold on the deportation order, and the judge would say this is no longer applicable because there is no longer any gang activity or any related activity that would present a real and present danger to this individual. In other words, he claimed asylum in 2019, and his asylum claim is no longer valid. There is no world, by the way, I should note, there is no world, despite what the Supreme Court might want, quote unquote, to facilitate, there is no world where this guy's coming back to the United States of America, nor should he. He should not have been here in the first place. I don't mean to be hard-hearted about this, but we have to stop it. That's the entire point of a sovereignty. That's the entire point of border security. That if you are the shining beacon on the hill, one of the responsibilities that you bear, being the greatest country on God's green earth, is that everyone wants to come here. And if you allow everyone to come here, then you don't elevate everyone to the level that makes this country great. You fall to the level of countries that they're fleeing from. You have to have a vetting process. Otherwise, you become that which that they wish to leave. Does that not make sense to anyone? The political left has gotten to a point. I wrote this down because I just wanted to remember it. The political left, on April 15th, 2025, here are the people that they're currently championing. I never could say that word. These are the people that the political left want to champion. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is an El Salvadorian national, the one that I've been talking about, that came from El Salvador illegally in 2011. He entered the country illegally. He was issued orders of deportation, argued that he couldn't go back because of his gang membership and because that gangs would want to get him in 2019. He argued that successfully in 2019, no longer applicable in 2025. That's number one. Carmelo Anthony, an individual that is accused of brazen murder in Texas of a fellow track star. Luigi Mangione, also a murderer. I mean, and then Mahmoud Khalil, a supporter of a terrorist, a designated terrorist organization, and an outward anti-Semite. Those are the people that the political left are attempting to champion. And yes, I am fired up early. Got a lot to talk about, a lot to say. We have Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton coming on at 4 o'clock to talk about the General Assembly and the progress being made and what we expect as we slowly but surely begin to wind down that. Representative Gino Bulso is going to come on with us. He'll be in studio at 5:05 this afternoon. Looking forward to that conversation as well. As always, looking forward to a conversation with you at 615-737-9986. It's episode 790 of the Matt Murphy Show. It's day 85 of the Trump administration, and we can be found on a variety of different platforms. Obviously on 99.7 FM. You can find us on a variety of apps like iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, and the like. And, of course, Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It's a Tuesday edition just underway. Hang in. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Whether it's a first call to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling because you've noticed something wrong with your AC, or a second opinion, Jeff Eddy can be trusted that he's going to give you the real skinny on what's going on with your AC unit. And obviously, it's the time of year where I encourage you to get maintenance done on your unit. Not too late for that. Go ahead and make the call because we're just getting those ACs cranked up, right? We're just getting into the meat of the spring. And before you know it, the hot conditions of summer will descend upon all of us in Middle Tennessee. You need Jeff Eddy on your side in that regard. Efficient Heating and Cooling has the best value around. Maintenance calls will never cost you over $125 at a residence, no matter how many units you might have at your residence, and oftentimes it is much less than that. Plus, when it's time to replace, they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, and they would love to recommend a great unit for you if it is time for you to get a new one. Call 615-784-4424. That's 615-784-4424, or go to efficienthvac.net. That's efficienthvac.net.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The family of a murdered Nashville elementary school custodian speaks out amid the manhunt for the killer. Details at 3:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, as the man just said, 26 minutes after the hour. Thank you for being around. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative. Give us a call if you want to. I slid over to the YouTubes. Man, oh man, let me tell you. If you think, sometimes I think the super text line is crazy, then I go over to the YouTubes.
Yeah.
And that chat is out of control sometimes, some afternoons. It's just getting underway today, but Kool-Aid wrote in and said, Murphy, his name is Kool-Aid is good. That's his name. I'm assuming his first name is Kool-Aid. Last name is good.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Sounds about right. Kool-Aid says, Murphy, who I do respect. Well, thank you, Kool-Aid. I like you too. Especially like peach and...
Peach Kool-Aid?
Oh, yeah.
Never had that.
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's really good. I like peach and I like green. That really, really bright green. I don't know. I think it's like lime. It's not lemon lime. It's lime. Very good. Anyway, I digress. Murphy, who I do respect, is clearly putting aside his principles to throw a little red meat to the dogs. I understand there's a certain amount of commerce involved in his stance. These people shouldn't become folk heroes, but a great deal of what Matt just said is probably false. Well, I would love for Kool-Aid to let me know what I said was false. I admit and I agree that there were clerical mistakes made in the deportation of the individual that was residing in Maryland that was illegally President of the United States of America. I agree with that. I agree that there was a previous determination on the part of a court that he had legitimacy to his asylum claim, which is what most in the mainstream media are hanging on when they say that he was wrongly deported. They never tell you that he was in the United States of America illegally. He entered illegally. He did not claim asylum when he entered. According to everything that I have found about this individual, he came here. He was eventually issued orders of deportation. After having orders of deportation issued to him, he claimed that he was in the country legally because of an asylum claim that he made against the nation of El Salvador, saying that the gang activity was such, and most of those claims during that time, because of El Salvador had descended into gang activity. That's all it was in 2019. Now, they have since cleaned this up. But because of that, his asylum claim was approved. Now, should you have gone to court and challenged that approval in 2025? Of course. Of course. I agree with that. Am I getting heartburn about this dude? Nope. No. If you commit an illegal act, I'm having a difficult time. Look, I understand that a lot of people that come into the country illegally are good people. I understand that many of the people that come into the United States of America are doing so to attempt to better the lives of themselves and the lives of their family members. I understand that the United States of America is a honeypot. I understand all of these things. But I also understand that sometimes there's a consequence to breaking the law. Sometimes there's not. For many of the people that came here illegally, there will never be a consequence for committing that illegal act. Because we are a generous nation, because we are a nation based on common humanity. And we do not believe that we should punish people for something they did 25 years ago in an effort to try to better themselves because of our inability to clean up our broken immigration system and our broken southern border at that time. But that doesn't mean that we can't clean some of this up now, which is what the liberals want to stop. They want to focus so much on the lawbreaker instead of the people that are impacted by the lawbreaker. They want to focus so much on this El Salvadorian national and never on the American citizens whose lives are ended or dramatically impacted as a result of the illegal alien activity? Why? Why do they always fall on the side of the lawbreaker when it comes to their sympathies? I wish I could say it was a mystery. It's not. It's 31 after the hour. I'll say that on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and right now in Middle Tennessee. Channel 4 says the family of the murdered Chadwell Elementary School custodian Nierka Alfonso is speaking out with a stern message to the alleged killer.
He says he knew she was the first person at the school because of her job. He says turn yourself into police and face the consequences of what you did.
Police say Alfonso was stabbed to death by her estranged husband, Candido Raul Rubio Perez, after arriving at work. The two had been married for 20 years, but separated in December after Rubio Perez allegedly beat Alfonso to the point she needed hospitalization. Right now in Nashville, more layers of safety at schools. 2 more schools, Academy at Old Hickory and Academy at Opry Mills, now have the Evolve weapons detection system. It uses artificial intelligence to identify potential weapons in bags or clothing. It offers faster and more accurate screening than traditional metal detectors. And there's another hearing in federal court in Maryland today over the fate of a Salvadoran man deported last month. The action now returning to the original federal judge who ordered Kilmar Abrego Garcia brought back. ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran on what this judge could do.
She can hold the individual lawyers from the Department of Justice in contempt of court. Courts do have contempt powers. She could fine them day by day. She could put them in jail if they continue not to obey the order as she sees it. That would appeal and get to the Supreme Court again.
So Garcia entered the country illegally in 2011. An immigration judge ruled that he had ties to the MS-13 gang, but in 2019 granted him relief from withdrawal. The Trump administration says that judge's ruling is null and void since President Trump designated MS-13 as a foreign terrorist organization. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got some good news if you are headed west out of downtown. Looks like all lanes are open there, westbound 24 after Whites Creek Pike. That crash has been moved over to the right shoulder. And then on the west end, police reporting a crash 440 westbound just past West End. That'll be exit 1. And crash is partially blocking the on-ramp 24 westbound from Murfreesboro Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Men of Valor, the ministry that is primarily funded by individuals like you, by families and by church groups. Men of Valor supports individuals in the prison system and attempts to lead them to a life of God through Bible study, through chapel service, discipleship group. They also have classes on authentic manhood, one-on-one mentoring. They do it all through volunteerism and through your generous donations. And it lowers recidivism and, frankly, saves us a tremendous amount of money as a state as a result. As a matter of fact, I would, some of the figures that we've seen over the years, that in some parts of the country, 70% of men who get out of prison will commit a crime again and return to prison. And graduates of Men of Valor, their recidivism rate is lower than 15%. It's an incredible rate of return. And it truly does save us money. And more importantly, in my mind, it saves souls and turns men into givers as opposed to takers. Will you help Men of Valor? Go to movministry.com. That's movministry.com to find out how you can help, whether it's through your donation or through your volunteerism. They need you. movministry.com. I'll say this. I'm about to tick everybody off. My analysis of Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, this is about to tick everybody off because I don't know that there is any fear of this individual reoffending or being a danger to society. I don't have a problem with him being bonded out of jail while he awaits trial. That's the American system. Now, maybe we could quibble on the amount. I think the judge in the case reduced it from a $1 million bond to a $250,000 bond. People are bonded out of jail all the time that are accused of murder. I don't have a problem with that. And I think people that do have been taken in by the sad politicalization of the case, and it's being politicized on both sides. On both sides. That said, 4612. Oh, by the way, it's the Matt Murphy Show. I get so excited about talking about these content-related issues. I forget to signpost here. It's Matt Murphy. My name's Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One thing you said on the Super Text, by the way, you can call us 615-737-9986. I much prefer calls than the Super Text, but I understand how the world goes nowadays. 4612 writes in and says, one thing you said that was wrong. Oh, you got my attention. I love when people tell me I'm wrong because then, I get to argue with you. One thing that you said, although every so often I'm wrong. It's very rare. One thing you said that was wrong is on the instigation of the narrative of Carmelo Anthony being a murderer when he hasn't been convicted while out on bond claiming self-defense. Seems like there's two clear sides, and you're taking what's most expected and convenient. I don't think there's any question that Carmelo Anthony's a murderer. I mean, right? I mean, maybe you take exception with my use of the term murder. Perhaps you assign some additional motivations or whatever to that word. Carmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf. He admitted that. Witnesses saw him do it. He pulled a knife out of his bag and stabbed it into the chest, and the last breath of Austin Metcalf left his body. Carmelo Anthony, whether you want to face up to it or not, was directly responsible for the death of Austin Metcalf. He stabbed him and killed him. He is a murderer. I mean, does that make you uncomfortable? There's zero question. No one is disputing that. What is in dispute in the case of Carmelo Anthony is whether or not Carmelo Anthony was justified in killing Austin Metcalf because of his right to self-defense. That's the only question in that case. Now, I suspect if the roles, and these hypotheticals are in some ways useless, but I'm going to do it anyway. I believe if the roles were reversed here, that everyone that's arguing one thing would be arguing the other thing, and everybody arguing the other thing would be arguing the other thing. I think this would be getting a hell of a lot more attention in the national media if the colors of the individuals were reversed. Sadly, this situation has to be bathed and cloaked in race because one individual involved was black and the other individual involved was white. I don't know if race had anything to do with what led up to the altercation. Neither do you. Neither do you. Unless you were there, unless you have some intimate knowledge or some familiarity with the family that I don't have or some familiarity with an eyewitness that I don't have, and I'm not going to presume those things. But I'll say this. If Carmelo Anthony was white and Austin Metcalf was black, I think a lot of people who have really, really strong feelings about this situation that none of us really know that much about would have very different feelings about this situation. I don't believe, and look, I got to call it straight no matter if it pisses you off or not. I don't believe that so many of you that are upset that Carmelo Anthony has been bonded out of jail for $250,000 would be that upset if the roles were reversed. Similarly, I don't think that the people that are defending the guy would defend the guy if the roles were reversed. Far from it. I think they would already be calling for his public execution as a result. I truly believe that people positioned themselves on this case into corners based on a just basic understanding of what happened. Now, does it look, I'm predisposed to tell you in the court of public opinion, because the court of public opinion is not held to the same standard as a court of law, obviously. In the court of law, one is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And court of public opinion is not held to the same standard. We can all draw opinions about this case. This is America, right? At the same time, I try not to draw opinions about things where there are gaps in the facts. When the puzzle piece, when the jigsaw puzzle is yet to be completed, I try to get as much information as I possibly can before I draw conclusions. And I try not to allow my natural prejudices to play into that decision making. But here's what I can't get over in this case. They were under Metcalf's tent. And Anthony apparently knew that he was under the wrong tent. And so he initiated the confrontation. Whatever confrontation happened was initiated by Carmelo Anthony by his presence underneath a different team's tent. And he was told to leave, and he didn't leave. Everything. So what happened after that, you are hard-pressed for me to argue self-defense because you had, one, you were in a place where you were not supposed to be. Number two, you had ample opportunity to leave that location, and you apparently chose not to do that. And you're going to be hard-pressed if I were on the jury to prove self-defense otherwise. And, of course, you've got a weapon in your bag and you're on school property, and that's problematic as well. You took a knife to a fist fight. Sadly, there was a time when altercations like this perhaps would lead to boys fighting other boys, getting suspended for a few days, and we're done with it. Now, unfortunately, some of the cultural issues that we see existed in young men's lives lead them to escalate the level of violence to a knife, a stabbing, a gun, a shooting, whatever. Aaron says there's a distinction between being a murderer and a convicted murderer. One's adjudicated. Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, O.J. Simpson was a murderer. Do we not all agree on that? Do we have any holdouts on that? O.J. Simpson was never found guilty in a criminal court of murder. I understand that the word murder carries a little more weight than the word killer. I mean, if you want to call him a killer, that's fine. But he killed someone. I mean, he killed someone. Did Carmelo Anthony. O.J. Simpson killed 2 people, at least, that we know of. Scott says it's tough to claim self-defense when you say, touch me and see what happened. No. I mean, once again, my opinion about what happened in this case is that this kid escalated what could have been a fight or escalated what could have been an altercation into a death. And I don't believe that he feared for his life. I believed that he believed that he was being insulted or somehow dissed. I don't know what led up to the altercation in terms of why he decided to go into the other team's tent. I've not seen that. I've not heard it. If it's out there and available, let me know. But it doesn't really matter. You were in a place that you were not supposed to be. You were told to leave. The guy started to get physical with you, to physically remove you from a place that you were not supposed to be. And then you went on to say, touch me again, you see what happens. During the time that you said, touch me again, and you see what happens, if you were fearful for your life, A, you wouldn't have said that. B, you would have left. But you didn't. You reached into your bag, and you pulled out a knife, and you stabbed a person in the chest with it. It seems to me to be fairly cut and dry. And the parties that are defending Carmelo Anthony so vociferously are doing so based on racial lines. Let's just be clear about it. And that is not to suggest that if the racial dynamics were not altered or flipped, that things would not be significantly different on both sides. I suggest that they would, just based on my doing this for 25 years. Chuck is in Murfreesboro with a thought on it. Hey, Chuck.
Well, how track meets are conducted, black teams, white teams, they all bring their own tent. And
I didn't know that there were black teams and white teams.
There are in a lot of cases, and partly black, partly white. Just, my daughter was a scholarship track athlete. I went to a bunch of track meets.
Well, you mean different schools, in other words.
Different schools, and what happens is that you put up your own tent, and athletes stay under the tent when they're not competing, and the athletes that are competing, they put their backpacks in the tent with their laptops, their cell phones, and all that stuff. And the athletes that aren't competing and are under the tent are expected to watch everybody's backpack, cell phone, and that sort of thing. And that's why they don't want other people getting under their tent. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I don't have a single issue with any of that. I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand that is a school area designated by the tent, and based on that, I don't think there's any question that Carmelo Anthony was in a place that he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know, maybe his defense will try to argue some nonsense, but.
Well, most, and it's a great sport, and it's a great sport for black families and white families, and they all enjoy it. And they all know the rules. There's no excuse for what happened.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with that. And, the question is, they're going to argue, thank you, Chuck, for the call. They're going to argue self-defense. And I just think that's a tough row to hoe. And there are people that will not become informed on the facts of the case that will be passionately in favor of Carmelo Anthony's release from jail. I mean, they will be. And, sadly, this is another one of we've seen it so often. People did it with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. People tried to do it with Officer Wilson and Michael. Can't remember his last name. In Ferguson, Missouri. Somebody will give it to me. The individual that got shot because he was bum rushing Officer Wilson in Ferguson after the strong arm robbery of why can't I remember his name? People jumped to conclusions in the George Floyd case. I mean, because of the video was so dramatic and was so upsetting to people didn't realize that George Floyd was on drugs. That there were other aspects to that case involving George Floyd's previous. Give it to me. Michael Brown. Yeah, thank you. I knew it was something like that, but we are a nation of conclusion jumpers. In other words, 52 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More on, the two front storylines that we're dealing with. More on this case involving the track star Austin Metcalf and his sad death. He was laid to rest yesterday. And more on the El Salvadorian national that most in the United States American media want to suggest to you was a Maryland man. 52 after the hour on Super Talk. You know the old nursery rhyme, rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Boy, if you've got waterproofing issues, I bet you're singing that tune, right? You don't want to see any more rain in your home. Sadly, you're going to see some more in the area over the next several days, and obviously it is the rainy season in Tennessee. Well, if you've got waterproofing issues, it brings with us its own set of problems. I mean, not only is it going to cause foundation issues in your home, it could cause health hazards for you and your family as well. It's time to get with USS, United Structural Systems. They offer all manner of waterproofing services, exterior drains, interior drains, crawl space waterproofing. They do it all, crawl space encapsulation and dehumidifiers. They have all of that available at their fingertips to help you figure out what's going on with your home and to de-water and to dehumidify and to get your home safe and sound and to prevent any future foundation issues in the process. USS can be trusted by homeowners and have been since 1994. Almost 30,000 satisfied customers at USS. Homeowners trust USS. Go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. 615-488-7855. 488-7855 for USS.
New data shows immigration enforcement is ramping up in Nashville. This story and more at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Appreciate that. 58 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Several of you on the Super Text line. And by the way, you're always welcome to call the show, 615-737-9986. As a matter of fact, I was referring to Carmelo Anthony is a murderer, and I mean a killer. There's no disputing that. And someone said, call Kyle Rittenhouse that. Well, Kyle Rittenhouse was a murderer. I mean, he killed a guy. 100%. Justifiably so. A jury of his peers determined that he killed in self-defense, which is legal in the United States of America. He rightly feared for his life. And I've spoken with Kyle Rittenhouse about that when he came to Tennessee. He spoke in Columbia. I had a visit with him, and he knows that. He's fully aware of that, and he carries that burden with him all of his life. That regardless of the fact that it was justifiable, he carries a burden that he killed someone, and told me that. So, 100%. 615-737-9986. We'll turn our attention. By the way, there are new developments. Obviously, there was a hearing today in the court case involving this El Salvadorian national who was living in Maryland, Kilmer Abrego Garcia. The judge warned against gamesmanship. We'll tell you exactly what the judge had to say coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also talk to Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. He joins us next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Federal judge has questioned Trump administration officials on the refusal to return a Salvadoran man deported for being in the country illegally and alleged gang ties to MS-13. Kilmer Abrego Garcia's wife, though.
I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt asked about it during today's White House press briefing.
There is never going to be a world in which this is an individual who's going to live a peaceful life in Maryland because he is a foreign terrorist and a MS-13 gang member.
So what could the judge do, Terry Moran?
She can hold the individual lawyers from the Department of Justice in contempt of court. Courts do have contempt powers. She could fine them day by day. She could put them in jail if they continue not to obey the order as she sees it. That would appeal and get to the Supreme Court again.
Now, Trump administration officials say Garcia's relief of withdrawal granted by an immigration judge in 2019 is null and void since the president designated MS-13 a foreign terrorist organization. Here in Middle Tennessee, Fox 17 says new data shows immigration enforcement is on the rise in Davidson County. It shows 56 people were released to ICE from the Davidson County Sheriff's Office last month. That's the highest monthly total in over a year. ICE detainer requests also on the rise, 76 issued in March. Meanwhile, in our nation's capital, President Trump says he's looking into the legality of sending U.S. citizens to Central American prisons.
The White House Tuesday wouldn't give details on how President Trump would follow through on his statements that he would send American citizens convicted of crimes to prisons in El Salvador.
If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the president is looking into this.
He would only consider this, if legal, for Americans who are the most violent, egregious, repeat offenders of crime who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
A new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention finds that autism rates in the U.S. are on the rise. Here's ABC News health and science reporter Mary Katakos.
The CDC report shows that in 2022, 1 in 31 kids, an estimated 1 in 31 children, were diagnosed with autism. That is an increase from 2020, in which 1 in 36 kids were diagnosed with autism, and also a rise from 2000, which was 1 in 150 kids.
A wave of U.S. states committing to banning soda and candy from their food stamps program. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today joining Indiana Governor Mike Braun as he signed a slew of Make Indiana Healthy Again executive orders.
Governor Braun is a really important partner in the Maha movement, and a great leader, and I'm very, very grateful.
Idaho, West Virginia, Arkansas joining in too. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over on the West End, police reporting a crash on the right shoulder, 440 westbound, past exit 1. Then in Jolton, a crash on the right shoulder, 24 westbound after Whites Creek Pike. Then we had the on-ramp partially blocked. This is 24 westbound on-ramp from Murfreesboro Pike. In Antioch, police reporting a crash, right shoulder block 24 eastbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. And in Montgomery County, Highway Patrol on the scene of a crash, 24 westbound near MLK Parkway. Also 24 westbound approaching Rossview Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2, the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you've decided to join us. It is 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon so far. Beautiful day in Music City. Hope it is gorgeous where you are. So it is always a pleasure to speak with the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. We seem to be, and I don't want to assume anything, but we seem to be winding down the General Assembly as we slowly make our way to budget conversations. And before you know it, the House and the Senate will gavel out and all the membership will go back to their respective districts. I think it's a good time to reflect on the session that has been and what is left to do with the Speaker of the House of the General Assembly of the great state of Tennessee. He is Cameron Sexton. He joins us on the show. Cameron, good afternoon.
Hey, Matt. Thank you.
Cameron, the most important question I'm going to ask you today, I believe. You ready?
Yeah.
What do you make of Coach Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers saying goodbye to Nico Ilimaliava and moving on from his service to the team?
No, I mean, I think it sends a strong message, to be honest with you, and I think it solidifies what college coaches, well, at least quality college coaches who are out there who say that, you know, the team is more important than the I. And so it was a great message. I hope other colleges will come through with it, but he's part of a team. He's not an individual. He might be an individual on the team, but it's a team sport. And if he's there more about money than he is about playing for the University of Tennessee, then he needs to go somewhere else.
I thought that question would rile you up a little bit more, but you gave me a good answer. I mean, absolutely, 100%. And frankly, I was joking around yesterday, and everybody knows I'm a Georgia Bulldog, but I appreciate Coach Heupel doing it. I mean, I think it's time. And in all seriousness, Cameron, something at some point, and I know you've got more important fish to fry over there in the General Assembly, but at some point we got to figure out this NIL and transfer portal deal. Do we not?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, it really is. And when you can transfer up to 2 times a year, we had Anthony Hardaway here. Penny Hardaway was here, and we were talking to him about it. We talked to other college coaches about it, presidents of universities about it. And it's a huge problem. And look, I can tell you, after looking back, the thing is Nico was making a lot of money, and I will say that the value that he gave to the team was not worth that amount of money. I mean, he didn't perform to the level, and I guess he thought he did, and there he goes.
Oh, there he goes. And, well, once again, hopefully they'll get it solved. But I want to lead with that to get you all fired up, get you ready to go, Cameron, for some of these other questions. So now,
if you told me it's going to Georgia, that might get a little
that might be a different story. What do you – I mean, we feel like we're winding down, right? I mean, the session, we've got maybe a week or so left. We'll tackle our budgets coming up next week.
No, budgets will be up tomorrow. So the House budget will be on the floor tomorrow, probably late afternoon. We were on the floor most of today going through some calendars. We still working off that one. But the budget should be tomorrow, and then after that we'll probably have maybe 150 bills left, I think, something like that. So we should be finished up next week.
What do you believe in the general session, not the special? I'll exclude the scholarship fund, the Freedom Scholarship Act, but in the general session, in your opinion, what have been the most important things that you've accomplished this year so far?
Well, I mean, look, first and foremost is always the budget and making sure that we maintain our budget integrity. And also we've limited the amount of federal money in our budget. The COVID money is slowly going out, and so that number will go down. But we have less money in the budget today from the federal government than we've ever have. So that's a good thing. I think we're continuing to budget wisely, meaning we're not spending a lot of revenue for recurring expenses. We're doing it for non-recurring, which means that if something happens to the economy, and we're watching it very carefully, that we're prepared to handle it. And so outside of that, I mean, look, we're working on a lot of criminal justice stuff. There's a lot of different education things. There's still the Bo Watson, William Lambert bill that's out there. There's some constitutional amendments out there dealing with victims' rights and allowing judges the discretion to deny bail. We did a lot of bail reform bills today that the bail industry doesn't like, but they're needed to bring them back into control. It's a wild, wild west with some of these companies out there. And so it's been a good session. It really has.
There was, it occurs to me, you mentioned some of the legislation that's going on and some of the communities that are impacted by it. There was a thought that the state might take over the Memphis school system, and
yeah,
are we working on that?
Still pending. We are. I mean, look, you have to draw a line somewhere, man. I mean, look at it. We've been spending about $1 billion a year for X number of years, and the locals are spending $1 billion a year for that last number of years. And we're not getting anything in return for that investment. I mean, the return on investment, if you're a business, you just close it and go home and go do something else. And so, we're looking at a solution that the House and Senate can agree to. I think we're pretty close, and we'll see what happens. But something has to be done. And I will tell you, the difference is there's a school there called Pure Academy. It's a private boarding school, Category 1 school. They've taken the same kids that are failing in those schools that were 2 to 3 years behind or 2 to 3 grade levels behind, They bring them in. It's a boarding school. They change everything around them. It takes about 3 to 6 months to get them reacclimated and let them become children again. And now what they have is 85% of those kids are going to college, 100% are graduating high school, and those other 15% are getting a certificate in some technical vocational skill where they can go make a living. So the opportunity is there, the success is there, but we cannot continue going down the same road that they're going down right now.
Cameron Sexton, our guest, Speaker of the House of the General Assembly of the state of Tennessee, talking about activity this session thus far. Let's talk immigration. I mean, obviously, this perhaps has we've seen the most emotion surrounding this issue of this immigration bill that would challenge Plyler v. Doe, that was, I think, affirmed by the United States Supreme Court in the early 1980s, suggesting that a state has a responsibility, regardless of immigration status, to allow young people to attend public schools. This bill would change that. It is a clear, obviously, it is a by design to get into the courts, to move it up through the system, to challenge whether or not that ruling was appropriately adjudicated at the time. You know, considering the emotions surrounding this, and I understand emotions die down, Cameron, do you believe, or I guess explain why you would feel like this it has value and that it's worth what the legislature, the time that you've spent on it?
Well, the value is having the Supreme Court take up the case and reevaluate that decision, which has been, 40, 50 years. And so, but what you also have to do, Matt, is make sure that this piece of legislation will get to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court take it up. If the Supreme Court doesn't take it up, then this piece of legislation didn't do what it was designed to do, which is to challenge that court case. So that's the first thing we have to figure out. Will this be able to be challenged and get to the Supreme Court, or will they keep it in the lower courts, first and foremost? The second part of the bill, which I really like, is the data collection. We can all pontificate, hypothesize, and make assumptions over how many kids are in our school systems are illegally. You can look at English second language, but some of those kids are not here illegally. They just don't talk our language or speak our language. And so I think a key part of that bill, hopefully we can get it passed, is the data collection. I think we should have the schools tell us, what kids are there that are citizens, what kids are there that are documented, what kids are there that has no documentation or undocumented or illegal. And then we can really digest what the problem is. It may be a huge problem. It may be a small problem, and we address it accordingly. But it's one of those things, I'm about process, procedure, and about data. I would love to have that data, because right now we do not have that data being given to us.
Cameron, I know you to be meticulous when it comes to the details of legislation. It's part of the reason that your colleagues have selected you to be the Speaker of the House. With that in mind, I want to ask you about IVF. I don't know of any reasonable, rational person that disagrees that parents ought to have the ability to seek in vitro fertilization in the state of Tennessee. And to my knowledge, that's never been denied any Tennessee parents. It was codified this year in the General Assembly, but some are suggesting that might put that codification at loggerheads with our definition of human life, considering how so many of these IVF centers utilize the fertilized embryos and then eventually, in some cases, destroy those embryos. Has this come to your desk at all, this conversation about the possibility that these two pieces of law do not jive with one another? And if so, what do you have to say about it?
Well, so yeah, we had the IVF contraceptive bill on the House floor last week, and it passed. And basically what it did is to your point, it codified exactly what the practice is in Tennessee. And that practice is in existence after we passed the protection bill, life protection bill, which defines when life begins. And so all that bill did is codify exactly what the process is now, what is legally done. There was an amendment that was put on about FDA language, where if the FDA change it, then this changes. If they define certain products as being abortifacient drugs and not contraceptives, that allowed us, I believe, to have the Tennessee Right to Life group to become neutral on that bill and say, okay, we can accept this bill at that point. So I think we're in a good place. Look, it's a tough question, right? I think we all believe that women should have the capability of having contraceptives. We've had that in our society for a long, long time. And so making sure that they have the ability to have contraceptives, if they so choose, as long as they're not abortifacient type of drugs, is the conversation. And that's what we think we did, that we put the amendment on to make sure that the Right to Life was agree with it. And we'll see. But IVF is a tough thing. There's a lot of families that have children that came through the IVF process, and that process needs to be protected the best that it can. And we think we have accomplished that right now. It may change in the future. It's hard to say exactly what that will look like.
I mean, are you concerned at all that it puts any IVF center at risk if they go through their normal procedure? Because it's my understanding, I don't have intimate knowledge of this, it's my understanding that, parents might have multiple fertilized embryos, and if they have the children that they have so desperately wanted to have, that at some point down the line, those embryos might get destroyed by the centers. But would that not be in contrast to what the law says with regard to human rights?
Well, I mean, I think there's so many court cases out there. When we worked on the legislation they obviously worked with the AG's office to make sure we don't get out of compliance.
Sure.
Also worked with the legal department here, worked with the Tennessee Right to Life and what that would look like. And so what I think is when we got the final bill, there's going to be people who disagree with it, and I understand. But when we got the final bill, all the boxes were checked off, believing that we were in the correct spot we needed to be based on what the current practice is in the state of Tennessee.
I always like to note the vote totals in the House, and I take special attention or pay special attention to those votes that might, split the caucus to a little degree. And it seemed like the caucus was a little bit split on the primary bill, Lee Reeves legislation. Tell me where you are on this legislation, what your understanding of it is, and why you were supportive of making sure that the state of Tennessee, even on the local level, stuck with the primary system if that's what they're doing currently.
Yeah, so I mean that bill basically what it really does is whatever process you're currently using, it allows you to continue to use that process. If you're using primary, you use primary. You can't go to caucus. If you're using caucus, you can stay caucus. But if you ever go to primary, then you have to go to primary. You can't come back to caucus. Look, at the end of the day, there's both sides of this issue as well, and I understand it. But there's a situation where you have caucuses and you have party bosses who decide who is going to be the nominees, and they nominate them. There's some kind of committee. And then what they do is on some Saturday at some random time, they have an election, and people come. The problem is there's people who work on the weekends. There's people who are in college who can't make it. There's people who are serving our military and can't make it. There's people who decide to get sick or maybe even have babies on a weekend that they can't control, and they lose their opportunity to vote. And those elections aren't protected by the Secretary of State. They don't have the election integrity mechanism that we have. And so what our bill really allows is for whatever is going on right now to be going on. But in my mind, the best capability is through a primary system. You have more people who vote. And so a caucus, there was multiple examples of people saying that there's caucuses in various counties. They have 400 people who caucus. That's wonderful. But in a primary, there's more than 400 Republicans who want to vote. And so you have 20,000. In another one, they had 2,000 Republicans vote in the primary, and when they changed to a caucus, they had 150. Look, it really comes down to, do you want your party bosses making the decision, or do you want the voters to make the decision? I think you rely with the voters. And Matt, if you remember when Kamala Harris was coronated through a caucus, right? Everybody was outraged. How in the world can you do a caucus to nominate her? How is that possible? That's ridiculous. There needs to be a fair election. So if that's the process, Republicans were saying that too, like that was ridiculous. You need to go through an election process. If primaries are good enough for state candidates and federal candidates, then it should be good enough for the local candidates.
And finally, I know our time's limited, but finally on the question of, I know that the what I call the vape legislation, the increase in taxation on certain vaping products, the elimination of Chinese-based vapes. I've had a lot of business owners contacting me because we've had a couple of discussions about this legislation. Where is it in the House? Is it? I honestly don't know if it's gotten to the floor or if it's tracking to the floor.
It's tracking to the floor. We had Deputy Speaker Zachary work all weekend with all the parties involved to the best visibility and be able to get to a compromised place where there was no clear winner. They all had to lose something, and usually that's a pretty good place for legislation in the end. And so we need to get control of it. Look, the problem that we have with hemp is we never got control of it. So now you have all these hemp stores advertising they have THC, which they do through the hemp plant, which is legal in the state of Tennessee. It's not a marijuana plant. And now it has the same THC levels. It's getting people high. And all of a sudden, we have a huge problem with hemp and THC, the byproduct, when you go through a process. vape was going in that direction, and we had to get control of the vape industry, whether it's the Chinese things or other stuff. And also in the vape, they have an open system where you can take the THC and put into these vape things that are being made. And the fascinating part about vape, Matt, is we are selling products in the United States, in the state of Tennessee, that China refuses to allow to sell in their country. But it's okay in Tennessee. And so we're trying to get a better control of that as well.
Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, always a good conversation. Thank you for spending some time with us. Best of luck as the session winds down, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you. Appreciate
you,
man.
Yeah, there's Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, 23 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Dr. Brian McLaughlin, as well as Dr. Paz, want to see you. It's as simple as this, friends. If you're having trouble sleeping and you don't know why, is it possible that you have sleep apnea? If you have sleep apnea, go see Dr. Brian McLaughlin. He's a U.S. Army veteran. He's a dad, a business owner. I absolutely love talking to him. We broke bread together and talked about his experience, actually compared notes with Augusta, Georgia. He was stationed over at Fort Gordon for a series of years. But right now, he is right here in Middle Tennessee, in Murfreesboro, in Brentwood, helping people like you who can't tolerate a CPAP machine, but perhaps you know that you have sleep apnea or you think that you might. Their treatment is for folks who want to sleep better, who want to breathe throughout the course of the night. These are significant health risks that could be associated with sleep apnea that we need to get rid of. Thank you to the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center, Dr. McLaughlin and Dr. Paz. Secondarily, friends, they are in network with most insurance in the state of Tennessee, and they are a approved community care provider to the VA, helping veterans sleep and live better. Go to TennesseeSleep.com. New website there, TennesseeSleep.com for more information. The Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center.
Metro Police think about $175,000 and some overtime work by staff will help bring down the homicide rate by 10% in Nashville. I'll tell you about that at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That is on the way. Thank you, Ken Weaver. From News Closet B, there's Ken Weaver. My name's Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Many of you weighing in on our conversation with Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton, suggesting that marijuana should be put to a vote in the state of Tennessee. I don't have a problem with that. I would not have an issue with a referendum on the matter of medical or recreational marijuana use in the state of Tennessee. As a confirmed libertarian, small L libertarian, I don't belong to the Libertarian Party, but I do believe in the basic philosophy of government. Government serves best when least and only when necessary. The idea that the government can tell you what you can and cannot consume in your own body doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Secondarily, and we were late, and I wasn't going to challenge necessarily Cameron on this point. I get what he's saying, but when you say, well, you know, we sell things in the state of Tennessee that they won't allow sold in China. Yeah, we do a lot of things in the state of Tennessee that they don't allow in China. You know, like free speech. Like you have the right to own a gun. You know, so, I mean, I don't know that it's, I mean, I love Cameron to death, but I don't know that it's your best argument necessarily that, hey, we should be more like China when it comes to these vaping products. Now, at the same time, for me, the government's role in any of this is to make sure that those that are selling the product are being honest with you about what type of product they're selling and that you have the ability to figure that out. They should be obligated to make sure that you know exactly what you are consuming in your body. It's up to you as to whether or not you consume it or not. Otherwise, I don't think the state should be involved in the vaping industry. I mean, if it's that bad, make it illegal. Otherwise, leave it alone and let these business owners be and put an age restriction on it. That's fine. And make them abide by the age restriction. That's where I'm at on that. It is 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. And News 2 says Metro Police will ask Metro Council tonight for permission to apply for a grant that would be dedicated to identifying gang members and their networks and interfering in those activities. Police say Nashville has seen triple-digit murders the past 3 years, most of them in the East Hermitage, North and South precincts, and they've identified more than 700 individuals they believe are interconnected in this violence. They believe that this grant can help them bring down the homicide rate by 10%. In the case of a Salvadoran man deported by the government last month, U.S. District Judge Paula Sinise, who ordered he be returned, ruled today she would not hold any government officials in contempt for violating her order for now. But she warned against what she called further gamesmanship. She said, we have to give process to both sides, but we are going to move. She says in her courtroom, there will be no tolerance for gamesmanship or grandstanding. And a snapshot of the economy from one of the major airlines.
United Airlines says it's cutting about 4% of its flights in the third quarter of this year. Multiple airlines have said economic uncertainty, some of it due to tariffs and unstable stock markets, have people cutting back on booking domestic coach tickets. United says it is reducing off-peak flying on lower demand days, and United will retire 21 planes earlier than it had planned. It comes as United beat earnings expectations in its first quarter and says international and premium travel demand remains strong. Alex Stone, EBC News.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Well, in addition to the usual brake tapping this time of day to get home, we still have crashes reported. This one's out of the way. It's over on the shoulder 24 westbound after Whites Creek Pike in Jolton. Over on the west end, right shoulder block 440 westbound past West End. South Nashville on-ramp partially blocked 24 westbound from Murfreesboro Pike. And then in Clarksville, Highway Patrol reporting a crash 24 westbound near MLK Parkway. Also 24 westbound approaching Rossview Road. In Antioch, police reporting a crash 24 westbound past Harding Place. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Do you own some property in the state of Tennessee and you're thinking about improving the value of that property? Might I suggest that you go to stoltzco.com to find out what you exactly can do, what you can achieve? Don't buy one of these prefabricated buildings. I don't believe that that's going to improve the property values, but I do believe that if you build an event space or an equestrian space, a garage space, a pole barn, or a barn dominium on your property, man, oh man, now you're talking. Whether it's a place for you to live or perhaps you need a mother or father-in-law suite, maybe it's just a man cave or a she shed, whatever it might be, Stoltzco builds high-quality, customized structure at the lowest possible price for you and your family, and these are quality structures. Go online and see some of the photographs, and you'll understand what we're talking about. There's a reason why Stoltzco is the go-to company in Middle Tennessee for anything pole barn, high quality, first-class customer service in the creation of post-frame buildings, and you can customize to your heart's delight, right? I mean, that's the wonderful thing about working with the designers at Stoltzco. Go to stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com for more information, and give them a call. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. 615-622-5992. 622-5992 for Stoltzco.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and if you have been experiencing pain throughout 2025 and you just don't know what to do with it, might I recommend you go to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I certainly made the switch, and I want you to Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley. If you have pain in your neck or your knees or your elbows or your hips or your joints, anywhere that it hurts, it is possible to live a pain-free life. You know, when you call for that initial consultation, you get a friendly folks on the other end of the phone. They'll get you an exam, x-rays included if needed. You can bring an MRI if you've already got that going on. Dr. Mitchell will go over your situation and game plan a way together to get you feeling better immediately. Friends, right now, in honor of our 47th president, they've got 47% off their non-surgical spinal decompression, the big 47 offer in 2025. Call 615-246-5009, 246-5009. Say goodbye to pain. Say goodbye to concern about pain all over your body with the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Go to painisbad.com. That's painisbad.com. My name is Matt Murphy, and the Wellness Institute of Nashville has my seal of approval. I've infuriated people with my use of the term murder when it comes to Carmelo Anthony. Murder means that he was unjustified. You want me to say homicide? One way or the other, he killed the guy. I mean, without dispute. Whether or not he was justified remains to be seen. We shall see. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. 615-737-9986. Okay, Matt, I think the government regulate anything you put in your body, a heroin, a crack. Come on, man. Let me read that again. I'm reading it exactly as it's written. No offense to Joe. I'm sure that it was maybe voice to text. Okay, Matt, I think the government regulate anything you put your body, a heroin, a crack. Come on, man. I do make somewhat of a distinction between products that occur or things that occur naturally and things that are man-made in a laboratory. But generally speaking, I do not believe that it is best practice for the government to tell you what you may or may not consume. Does that come with its risk? Of course it does. Is it your responsibility? Of course it is. Stephen is next on the road. Hello, Stephen. Glad you called. How are you?
Hey, good, sir. Thanks, man. I just want to say thank you for your comments yesterday after we talked about this illegal alien from Maryland. I love your passion, man, and you're so smart when it comes to handling these issues. Yeah, flowers, buds, whatever people want to call it. It's natural. It's of the earth. If you look at it and you're seeing the market of THC and marijuana, how much it has helped people. They're taking it and putting it in different forms, but it really helps a lot of illnesses and ailments for human beings. I think the biggest scare is when the young people get a hold of it and just abuse it and get impaired and do silly things with it. So that's always going to be, whether it's legal or illegal, that's always going to be a factor on that. You know, I just wanted to recap on that yesterday. What I just heard, if you watch the 5, the Jessica Tarlyle chick arguing with Judge Janine about this alien, the whole issue with the reason why they're using him an excuse to go back with the gang is the reason why he came here is because he was in fear of his life from the MS-13 gang members. Well, I have this to say. Wasn't that the excuse of every single illegal alien from every country in South America that also came here?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and I think he was accused, and, you know, it was never proven in a court of law, and thank you, Stephen, for the call. It was never demonstrated in a court of law that he was, you know, definitively a member, but that's part of it. It is difficult to definitively prove. I mean, they don't carry membership cards with MS-13. They don't. Tren de Aragua doesn't. You know, you don't get a laminated card declaring your membership. But the suggestion was he was a member of MS-13 and he was fearful of Barrio 18. But he did specifically argue in court in 2019 that part of the reason that he was in fear of Barrio 18 was because of his association with MS-13. Now, I don't know this dude. I don't know that he's a bad guy. I know that he did a bad thing. He came into the United States of America illegally, and sometimes that comes around to bite you on the tuchus. And it's a changed world. You came in illegally in 2011. You didn't claim asylum in 2011. And that is key for me. You know, I mean, America is under no obligation to grant any of these asylum claims to anybody. Let me repeat that for those in the back. America is under no obligation to continue to accept asylum claims from anybody from any country. If America wanted to, through congressional action, we could shut down all immigration, and I think we should, for a period of time, until we continue to, as we have done over the first 3 months of the Trump administration, get our border security under control, get the traffic of drugs under control, the traffic of human beings under control, and figure out exactly what we need in terms of immigration reform in the United States of America. Somebody asked me on the super text line earlier today, what do you mean when you say immigration reform? Well, there's two aspects to this. First, you've got to shut down the illegal trade. And those that have certainly recently, over the last 4 or 5 years, come into the United States of America illegally, those people have to go back home. Now, I wouldn't suggest that all individuals that came into the United States of America illegally are going to need to go back home. And here's why. Because we as a society have not done anything about this, and we're dealing with human beings. And I am sensitive to the fact that we simply, as a society, would not do anything about it for the last 4 decades almost. I mean, since we had action in the 1980s, we've talked and talked. There was some mealy-mouthed talked about it in 2007 and 2008. But sadly, that never came to anything because some Republicans demanded amnesty for the illegal aliens that were already here when they ought not have done it. But those that have been here for the last 4 or 5 years, you've got those people have to return to their countries of origin. And then we have to assess. So first and foremost, you assess border security, sovereignty of the country, those that have engaged in illegal acts. Secondarily, you address legal immigration. What is the need for the United States of America? My standard is simple. Does this benefit the United States of America? First and foremost, I don't care if you're a doctor or a lettuce picker. Does America need lettuce pickers? If so, then hello. If you're a lettuce picker, apply, and maybe we'll get you into the United States of America. Otherwise, if we don't, I'm sad to say, America's full. We should have more stringent standards as to what benefits our country. And there's nothing wrong with asking that question. On the political left, they suggest that there is something immoral about borders at all. As if no borders would be a moral answer, especially considering what that's brought us over the last 5 years. Death of Americans, criminal behavior, illegal activity in our inner cities, and all that comes with that. Richie is next up in Clarksville. Hey, Richie, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I wanted to add another angle to that, what's his name, Carmelo Anthony, young man. You know, he's just a child. And how do we get here in this society to where a child going to high school or other events, you know, to where he feels like his life is threatened all the time? He has to carry a weapon. I mean, how do we get to this point where they feel like they have to have a weapon to protect themselves? And the other thing is, I mean, are we getting to another point where we're going to have metal detectors now or inspect kids' bags? I mean, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I've not seen, and I try to I try to say what I don't know when I don't know. And you're telling me that this person, you're telling me information that I've not heard. I've not heard that Carmelo Anthony carried a knife because he feared for his life.
It's just a thought how he got here. You know what I mean?
I could just as easily suggest that Carmelo Anthony decided to carry a knife because of status.
Yeah, or maybe like, what school did he go to? Did he go to a rough school where the school is not really teaching things and it's rough, and he lives where, you know, he goes to school where he has to, you know?
I mean, if we're suggesting that some students in the greater area in which this incident occurred feel compelled to carry knives with them at all times, which is obviously against school policy, it's against school regulation in every school in America, then that's a broader problem in that individual school system. But we're even in this conversation, Richie, I feel like we're assigning motivation, we're assigning, thought processes behind what led to Carmelo Anthony having the knife at the time of the track meet that I don't know existed. I don't know that it didn't either. I'm not saying one way or the other. I don't think we know. Obviously the end result of all of this is problematic, and obviously this is not being handled necessarily fairly on the part of the mainstream media, but because sadly it was politicized from the jump. But I'm trying to take a step back and trying to figure out exactly what happened, why it happened, why he was under that tent. I don't think we have a clear answer on any of this.
Yeah, I was just adding another angle to it, like you're saying, a broader, look at it to see what else was going on too, because it's just right now in society there's a lot of violence and a lot of things that make you wonder why a young man would want to do something like that. That's all.
No, great. I know. I'm glad you did. I know. I welcome the conversation. I 100% welcome the conversation. But the bottom line is this, that regardless of what precipitated it, the key here is for the defense to demonstrate that this individual was in genuine fear for his life prior to reaching into his bag, pulling out a knife, and thrusting that knife into the chest of another human being and killing that person. And regardless of why he had the knife, regardless of why he was under the tent, you're going to be, if I were on that jury, you're already hard-pressed to prove to me that Carmelo Anthony was in genuine fear for his life. And it's not enough to say, I thought we were about to get into a fight. You had to be in fear for your life. And I just don't see it. But, obviously it is up to the defense to provide the evidence toward that end in terms of motivation. Carmelo Anthony may or may not testify in his own defense. Secondarily, it's up to the prosecution to prove. I mean, there's really nothing to prove other than he didn't. I mean, there's nothing to prove other than he decided to go into his bag. He decided to take the knife out of the bag, and he decided without fear for his life to thrust that knife into the body of Austin Metcalf and kill him. Brian is in Murfreesboro real quick with a thought on the Salvadorian deal. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, I think you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that, man.
We're talking about the El Salvadorian person, and I think that we are missing a huge opportunity here. When a conservative makes a mistake, they need to own up to it and say, hey, we dropped the ball here for X, Y, or Z reason, and just be open and honest. There's a reason why so many people have a contentment towards politics in the Senate and whatnot in our country. But if somebody, a leader like Trump, said, hey, we screwed up, let's look at it, let's see where we went wrong, and let's make it better. Case closed. And if we take advantage of that, people are going to see, hey, this person's got a mindset and of humility and want to get better. I mean, we all make mistakes, but own up to it. Because if you come across and you say, hey, I'm sorry, because this is what happened with one of the individuals that said we made an error or something like that. They, gee, I'm sorry, but it was a Democrat that did it. No, that's not a true apology. Say, we blew it. This is how we're going to make it better.
Someone asked me a question, and it might, I consider all of these things. I try to consider them fairly, and I don't have an answer to it. Maybe others do. And thank you, Brian, for the call. I'm gonna let you go and keep listening on the air, and I appreciate the kind words. You're very good. So he was illegally in the United States of America. That's fine. You jumped a step in the process in which you did not go back to the court and say, hey, this gang activity is no longer an issue. His asylum claim is no longer a deal. He has ties to MS-13, and they've been designated a terrorist organization. He needs to go back to El Salvador. But I'm earnest when I ask this question. What landed him in prison? Like, I understand him being returned to El Salvador, but why has he got to go to this prison? Like, what did he do to go to the prison? Like, I genuinely don't understand that. Like, I understand sending him back to El Salvador, but he broke American laws. To my knowledge, he's not broken El Salvadorian laws. Now, maybe they say he has. It's one thing to send him back. It seems a little insult to injury to stick him in the old Seacott prison, one of the most notorious prisons on the face of the earth. It's 53 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic is the one-stop shop for all things men health care, especially when it comes to your levels of testosterone. And I want to talk to you about that for just a moment, gentlemen, because testosterone levels naturally decrease over time. That is the part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to take you away from the things that you love so much, the things that you enjoy. And at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, they get that too. Guys, it's something that affects at least 50% of men as we mature. And this can lead to issues in the bedroom. It can lead to issues, not wanting to go to the gym, not being as energetic as you once were. Well, if you've put it off way too long, it's time to get something done and move forward with your life. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is the leader in confidence, especially bedroom confidence. For a decade, the urologists and providers at Tennessee Men's Clinic have helped guys just like you with all manner of issues, such as ED and weight loss. And I want you to make the call that so many others have made. Let's put this behind us, gentlemen. There's no shame in this game. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090. Or go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. All right, friends, the Genesis Diamonds event of the year is coming up at the end of the month, and I want to tell you all about it. It's the jewelry buying experience everyone waits for, April 25th, 26th, and 27th. Unbelievable store-wide savings, up to 35% off some items. Now, Genesis Diamonds is a place of integrity, and they don't have sales that are phony sales where they jump the prices up and just to lower them again. These sales are real. These savings are real. We're talking rings, earrings, pendants, bracelets, bands, stunning fashion jewelry that you won't find anywhere else. Check out thousands of engagement ring settings, for example, in gold and platinum. You can also get incredible jewelry discounts. More jewelry than you've seen in one place, I would suggest anywhere at any time, will be found at Genesis Diamonds on the 25th, 26th, and 27th of this month. So mark your calendars. It is time. If you got an anniversary coming up, a birthday, or just because, gentlemen, it's time to get to Genesis Diamonds in Green Hills and Cool Springs. Also, they have special financing offers available and store-wide savings of up to 35%. It's April 25th, 26th, and 27th only at Genesis Diamonds.
Well, the state Senate and state House hope to vote on a budget as early as tomorrow. But wait till you hear what Senate Republicans want to do to the budget Governor Lee has proposed. That's coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Also, just after 5 o'clock, we've got Representative Gino Bulso of Williamson County coming in, stopping by to talk about some of the legislation that is moving through and some that isn't moving through, including a lot of you are asking about his flag legislation that he sponsored. I do not believe that that is getting any movement in the Senate, but we'll find out from the man himself, Gino Bulso. We'll also talk to him about a number of things. Why are we sending any federal money whatsoever to Harvard? I don't. You know, the president put a hold on $2 billion. Why are we sending any money? Is Harvard not a private university? Why are we sending money to Harvard? Taxpayer dollars to Harvard. They have an endowment of billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. That is upcoming in the 5 o'clock hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now at the state capitol, both the Senate and House hope to vote on a budget as early as tomorrow. Channel 4's Stacey Cameron says Republicans in the Senate are looking to trim Governor Lee's near $60 billion budget proposal by almost $180 million.
If passed, gone will be $60 million Lee had earmarked for a starter home fund meant to benefit first-time homebuyers and ease the housing crisis here in Tennessee. The nearly $125 million Governor Lee wanted to set aside to help preserve the Duck River, that would be slashed by nearly $90 million, and several faith-based nonprofits favored by the governor would either get cut way back or flat out eliminated. We'll keep an eye on House Republicans to see if they're pursuing the same level of cuts or if they're able to claw back some of that money for the governor's priorities.
Right now in Nashville, News 2 says Metro Police will ask Metro Council tonight for permission to apply for a grant to help identify gang members and their networks and disrupt them. Police say the grant would provide $175,000 from the federal government and won't cost Nashville anything and could help reduce the city's homicide rate by 10%. A federal judge in Maryland continues demanding answers about deporting a Salvadoran man to be imprisoned in his home country. But it's unclear why he has to be in prison in El Salvador. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy was at today's hearing.
Saying she's gotten no real response to her questions on the steps the government has taken to facilitate the man's release from a Salvadoran prison, Judge Paula Sinise says top U.S. officials involved in the case must now face questions in sworn depositions. They'll also have to produce documents. Judge Sinise says for now she'll hold off on initiating contempt proceedings, but she says she's seen nothing to indicate that the government is working to comply with an order she gave and which the Supreme Court has upheld.
An immigration judge in 2019 found Abrego Garcia to be affiliated with MS-13, and top Trump advisor Stephen Miller says that voids the order barring him from being returned to El Salvador. A new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention finds autism rates in the U.S. are on the rise. ABC News health and science reporter Mary Kaketos says an estimated 1 in 31 kids were diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in 2022 compared to 1 in 50 in 2000. She says the report does not specifically outline a reason for the increase.
What it boils down to is that autism diagnosis rates are increasing. However, experts have said that this is likely due to a better awareness of what someone with autism may look like or their certain behaviors.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, police reporting a crash in West Nashville. It's going to be 40 westbound at 46th Avenue, 51st Avenue, exit 205. Also on the west end, a crash on the right shoulder, 440 westbound at past exit 1. In Jolton, police still reporting a crash off on the shoulder there, 24 westbound after Whites Creek Pike. Then in Berry Hill, crash reported now 440 eastbound before I-65. And the on-ramp partially blocked 24 westbound from Murfreesboro Pike by a crash there. In Murfreesboro, we got a crash off on the right shoulder, 840 westbound past New Nashville Highway, Northwest Broad Street, exit 55. And in Smyrna, a stalled vehicle on the left shoulder, 24 eastbound after Almaville Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you until 7, or they boot us off the radio, whichever comes first. We'll get to your telephone calls coming up in just a few. 615-737-9986. Always good to speak with you. Had Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House, on earlier with us. Cameron broke some news for me. I mean, maybe you guys were aware of this. I was not, that we're already to the budgets. I mean, the Speaker indicating that the plan is to take up the budgets as soon as tomorrow and then get to some of the bills behind the budget. I always love these these terms of art, you know, the bills behind the budget. What was the other one? Flow motion. Representative Gino Bulso is looking at me. He knows the answer to that. Is it flocation, flow motion? What is it, Gino?
The abbreviation is FLOMO.
FLOMO. It's
short for flow motion.
Are we in the midst of flow motion yet, or are we getting there?
We are indeed. We're in it.
Oh, well, thank you for stopping by, Representative. Always good to have you in. Always good to have a chat.
My pleasure, Matt.
What is the, I asked Cameron this question earlier, and I'm curious your thoughts as we find ourselves in the waning days of the General Assembly, not the special session, because I think that's an easy out for you, but in the General Assembly, what would you suggest are the most important things that you've taken up outside of the budget, of course? I mean, that's still to come, but what comes to mind when you think of the important matters that have been taken up by the General Assembly this session?
A couple of things, because one, we always start with those first 8 words of the Declaration of Rights, that all power is inherent in the people. And one of the things that we do every General Assembly is to make sure that we're advancing the rights of the people. So when you look at individual rights, one of the things that we've done is we have focused on victims' rights with a constitutional amendment that's going to be before the people in 2028. We've also focused on bail reform by way of a constitutional amendment that is going to allow courts to keep dangerous folks off of the streets. And we have also begun to address, in some ways, the crisis of illegal immigration that we have. And right now, the principal bill that is moving through, HB 793, is behind the budget, but we're expecting it to come out so that we can begin to address immigration.
I mean, I think this bill is more than a show pony. I mean, you know, some might try to characterize it that way, but I think it's a very important step toward asking the Supreme Court of the United States to readdress what burden a state, any state, should bear in terms of funding the education of children of individuals who came to the country illegally.
Sure. And you're referring, obviously, to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Plyler versus Doe from 1982, which was a very close 5-4 decision with Justice Brennan writing the majority, Chief Justice Berger, writing the dissent. And the Supreme Court held, strangely, in that case, that under the Equal Protection Clause, any person in the world could come into the United States illegally, and that person had the right to enroll his children in any one of our public schools. That case dealt with Texas, but the ruling applied to all 50 states. And I think your listeners will recognize immediately that makes no sense. How is it that our Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment could possibly be interpreted to say that anybody who's in the country illegally has a right to put their kids for free into our public schools? And that's what this bill is designed to address, to have the Supreme Court revisit that issue so we get the law right.
And, obviously, and this is where our friends on the political left, this is where they live and breathe in emotion, not necessarily in thought, rational, reasoned argument. But it's an easily vilified issue in as much as they like to suggest that those of you in the majority on the right don't care about kids or don't care about, I don't know of any of you that don't genuinely care about these young people that find themselves in the United States of America through no fault of their own. But the fact of the matter remains that the Tennessee taxpayer are bearing the burden on this, and most in the state of Tennessee, at least most that I speak with, do not believe that that should be so.
And I would have to agree with them. The fact of the matter is that all of us want every child to be educated. I think any enlightened person would agree with that. But we have to have a legal system that places emphasis on the correct interpretation of our laws. So we love children, but we also love the rule of law. And we need to get the case law correct so that states can begin to address this issue of illegal immigrant children in schools on a state-by-state basis. And right now, our schools in our states have no opportunity whatsoever because of that Plyler versus Doe decision, even to address the issue. The Supreme Court has completely occupied the field and has said, you can do nothing. And that's what we're trying to overturn.
Representative Gino Bulso in studio with us talking about matters in front of the General Assembly. And anytime I have you on, anytime I announce that I'm having you on, I get several comments from our super text line asking me to ask you about your flag legislation. We've talked about it on several occasions. I know you carried it last year, and you carried it again this year. I don't think the House is at issue in terms of its passage, but I don't want to presume anything. Walk me through where we are.
I think you're right. The bill you're referring to carries the number right now, HB 304. And just to summarize, in the last General Assembly that we had, the 113th, we actually passed the flag bill through the House, and it got to the floor of the Senate on the very last day of the session and received a favorable vote of 13-6. But you need 17 of the Senate to have a constitutional majority, so we were 4 votes short. And so we refiled the bill in this 114th General Assembly, and it effectively just seeks to remove political flags from schools and also now from public roadways and public courthouses and other buildings. And we do have the votes in the House to pass it, but I didn't actually advance the bill this year because I was not convinced that we could actually get to the number 17 in the Senate this year. But the bill is very much alive, and it will be beginning to advance next year in January in the second year of the 114th General Assembly.
How much, it occurs to me, to peel back the curtain, how much are you able to talk with your colleagues over in the other body? And if you find that something is being received favorably in the House, what's the process by which you potentially can communicate with members of the Senate and try to, I assume there's a sponsor in the Senate, obviously, but, how much more could you, in an impassioned fashion, offer your thoughts on why you think it's so important to get this thing passed? It just occurs to me that I've never asked that question regarding the relationship between the House and the Senate.
Well, we're limited in some respects because we do have the Senate sponsor, in this case, Senator Joey Hensley, who also sponsored the bill for us in the 113th General Assembly. And I speak with my Senate colleagues every day because, we are carrying bills in the House that they're the principal sponsors of in the Senate and vice versa. But we do not go into each other's chambers and advocate bills in committee. We do that sort of behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. But we do respect the fact that we do have 2 separate houses and deliberations are going to be different. And so there's a certain level of influence I can have in the House that and the other House members have that we do not have in the Senate. We do have to rely upon our Senate sponsors and their ability to persuade their colleagues to come along and vote in favor of a particular bill.
I guess the message would be for those who are in favor of your flag legislation, call your senator and let them know.
Yes, by all means, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I think we might disagree on this, but that's okay. I mean, I'm interested in your thought process behind it. I think that earlier in the week you voted against what I've called the primary bill. It would, if I understand it correctly, it was Lee Reeves carried it in the House. It passed. I believe it got 60 votes. A number of Republicans didn't like the idea of this legislation. What it would do, if I'm understanding properly, if you are currently under a primary system, you'd be required to stay under a primary system. If you're under a caucus system locally, you can stay on the caucus system unless you choose to ever go to a primary system, and then you have to stay with the primary system. You voted against the legislation. Talk to me about why.
I did because, in my view, it's constitutionally suspect. I mean, I like the idea of having primaries versus caucuses or conventions. I think virtually everybody in the House does. But the problem is that the bill did not close our primaries. And so it set up a system where local parties, state parties are required to use a primary, yet it's an open primary, and they have no ability, as a practical matter, to prevent Democrats from voting in the Republican primary and vice versa. And the reason that's a constitutional problem is that we've got this thing called a right of freedom of association under the First Amendment, and we've had several cases. The most famous one, I think, was California Democratic Party versus Jones from the year 2000, majority opinion written by Justice Antonin Scalia, where he struck down California's required primary legislation because it allowed Democrats to vote in the Republican primary and vice versa. There was an even more recent decision, Matt, in 2011 in Idaho, that had a bill that was very much similar to Representative Reeves' bill. But once again, because it allowed crossover voting, it was stricken as being in violation of the First Amendment.
Crossover voting is currently not permissible in Tennessee, though, right?
It depends on how you answer that question. If you answer it as a legal matter, the answer would be correct because our statutes require that someone be affiliated or subscribe to the tenets of a party to vote in a primary. But the reality is that it's not enforced. And so, I want
to read that crossover voting, quote, in a political party's primary without being a bona fide member of or affiliated with that political party is currently against the law in the state of Tennessee.
By statute, it is.
Right.
The problem is that, as a practical matter, crossover voting goes on a lot. And I did refer to some statistics on the House floor yesterday. Like, for example, in March of 2024, looking at my home county of Williamson, we had slightly more than 36,000 voters in the presidential preference primary, in the Republican primary. 3,900 of those, or more than 10%, were actually Democrats. That is, they had recently voted in a Democratic primary. And that amount of more than 10% actually exceeded the threshold that the court in Idaho found to be constitutionally significant.
So how do you switch party affiliation under your scenario then? I mean, I've voted Democrat all my life, but I've decided that the Democrats have left me. I don't want to be a Democrat anymore. Are you saying that it should be impermissible for me to decide that I want to join the Republicans and vote in their primary?
Heavens no. No, the problem is crossover going back and forth. I mean, at some point, you're obviously entitled to select what party you affiliate
but
with. How,
based on your statistics, can you not demonstrate that that's, I mean, you don't know, in other words. You have no idea how many of those people that you just cited decided that they would begin voting for Republicans versus how many were, clandestinely voting in the Republican primary as opposed to actually becoming Republican.
In the statistics I just mentioned, no, we don't. But if we were to go back and say, look at the statistics from 2018 or 2020, and then you look at those voters and see where they voted in which primary since then, what you'd be able to demonstrate is that we've got folks crossing over and then going back. So there's not been a bona fide change in political philosophy. There's just an attempt to go over and affect another party's election. I
mean, is there any example in the state of Tennessee of this impacting an election that you can cite?
Oh, sure. One of the statistics I used on the House floor was in 2022 in Williamson County, we had a primary where we had 235 recently voting Democrats in the Republican primary, and yet we had a conservative county commissioner lose a seat by 11 votes. And although obviously we don't know who any particular person votes for, what it appears happened is you had Democrats crossing over, voting in the Republican primary to elect a more moderate Republican primary nominee for the Republican Party, and it worked because that particular conservative county commissioner lost by 11 votes. That is a very recent example just in Williamson County where crossover voting affected who the party's nominee was, and that's why it violates this freedom of association under the First Amendment.
So why wouldn't the answer then be to close the primaries?
That is the answer. And if the bill that we voted on, HB 855, had closed primaries as part of the bill, I would have voted for it. In fact, I think virtually everybody in the Republican caucus would have voted for it. But see, the two have to go together. If we are going to require state and local political parties to use a primary system, we have to give them the means to close the primaries to make sure that only Republicans are voting in the Republican primary.
Well, and there are some, and I would count myself in this number, that would suggest that you're kind of going the wrong direction when you do a caucus-based system because you're further excluding the voter from the process. And you understand some of those arguments.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone advocate that we should have a caucus.
I mean, I think in Williamson County, there's a group of people that are strongly advocating to move to the caucus system. You wouldn't agree with that?
No, I've not heard that. I mean, I'm familiar with...
I mean, you've never heard of Gary Humble? You don't believe that Gary Humble is behind the Elevate 2025 group?
Well, no, I was thinking...
I mean, I'm just trying to throw it on the table.
No, I understand.
I mean, I just want to make clear that, I mean, everybody knows that there's an effort to move to the caucus system by the local Williamson County Republican Party.
Well, what I have in mind and who I'm referring to are the folks that actually run the party. We've had an excellent chairman for the past several
years. Are you suggesting that they have not moved to make a push for a caucus system in Williamson County? That's why this bill exists.
Well...
I mean, Gino, let's not talk around it. Let's talk about it.
I mean, we can talk about it, but I've had discussions with members of the current local party board and with the past party board, and I can tell you, Matt, in my discussions, I've heard from no one who wants to move to a caucus system.
There's no one in leadership in Williamson County, in the leadership of the Republican Party, that you've talked to that wants to move to the caucus system.
Well, I didn't quite finish. That wants to move to a caucus system in lieu of having closed primaries. Everyone recognizes.
Well, let's not talk about the closed primary system. Do you believe that there are people in Williamson County in leadership in the Republican Party that want to move to a caucus system as the circumstances exist today?
No, I do not.
You do not?
I do not.
Yeah, okay.
Not the folks I've spoken to.
No, that's absolutely fair. What else do you have on the docket? I asked you right before we came on air about the behind the budget bills, and you said that you might have a couple of things coming up. What do you got?
We've got a couple of things. We've got one thing called the Valor Act, which is a bill to increase the local property tax exemption that we give to permanently and totally disabled veterans. Mm-hmm. Right now, the exemption is $175,000. It's been that way since 2006, and it's been 20 years since it's been raised. And so I've got a bill to raise that to $250,000. And that's one of the bills that I have that's behind the budget that I'm hoping will come out. I've got a bill that strengthens our unlawful photography law. That's HB 99. That is behind the budget because it would provide for stiffer sentences for those who engage in the surreptitious practice of photographing ladies in various public places.
Sure.
And I believe that one is going to come out from behind the budget.
Is there a reason why they get behind the budget?
Yes.
It just occurs to me that I don't know the answer to that.
Well, because we have a certain amount of revenue, and so we can't pass a bill that's going to have an expense associated with it unless there's revenue to match it. And so until we actually pass a budget, we do not know what revenue is going to be available to fund these bills. And so that's what it means to go behind the budget. The governor gives us a proposed budget, we add to it, and then we pass a budget that has revenue available to fund other bills. But until we pass that tomorrow, we don't know how much revenue there's going to be. That's why they go behind the budget.
You think things will get wrapped up next week?
I do. I think we're definitely on a path to wrapping up next week.
Representative Bulso, always a pleasure to get your perspective on all of these matters, and you're always good to stop by. We appreciate you.
Okay.
There's Representative Gino Bulso. We'll be back in just a moment. It's 25 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Look, I understand. If you're watching me on Super Talk TV, if you're watching the conversation between Gino Bulso and myself, then you probably see my nice head of hair. Well, you might not realize that I was a little bit concerned that I was losing some in the back. And so I went to We Grow Hair, the PAI medical folks. And they recommended for me, because they noticed a little bit of loss on the crown of my head, that I utilized the PRP laser treatment. It's a simple procedure. It's non-invasive. You're in and out in 45 minutes, and friends, it works. It is simply there for those who are concerned about hair loss, and maybe you want to prevent something that might be coming down the road. Now, no one else has the ARTIS robotic FUE procedure, the multi-unit hair grafting transplant procedure that gives you 2 times the hair in one procedure. Friends, restore your hair, restore your confidence. If you're concerned about it, go to WeGrowHair.com. They are the one and only that I'm going to recommend. PAI Medical. They believe in helping you get back to life with hair growth through WeGrowHair.com. Go 615-376-6010, 376-6010 for We Grow Hair.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, here in Tennessee, the hemp industry is worried lawmakers are going to put them out of business and deny customers a product they can trust is safe. A bill has passed the House, and now it's up for debate in the state Senate this week that regulates gummies and THC flower. The owner, or hemp flower, I should say, that contains THC, the chemical that gets you high. The problem is that some of these products apparently go over the federal allowable limit of 0.3% THC. The owner of the Greenhouse Dispensary in Nashville telling News 2 it's going to have far-ranging impacts if this bill becomes law.
The economic impact is substantial. Consumer side, a lot of people have found relief with our company and other companies to be able to find products that are safe, legitimate, and they no longer had to rely on things off the street.
Well, the bill could be heard on the Senate floor tomorrow or Thursday. It's already passed the House and would take effect on January 1st if passed and signed by the governor. Right now in Nashville, more layers of safety at schools. 2 more schools, Academy at Old Hickory and Academy at Opry Mills, now have that Evolve weapons detection system installed. It uses artificial intelligence to identify potential weapons in bags or clothing, offering faster and more accurate screening than traditional metal detectors. And a federal judge in Maryland continues demanding answers about the Salvadoran man the U.S. sent to be imprisoned in his home country without facing any criminal charges here or there. And despite a 2019 order that prevents his deportation to El Salvador, the Trump administration claims Kilmar Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, which nullifies that 2019 order. But this judge has said she's seen little to no evidence to back up the gang membership claim. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy was at today's hearing.
Judge Paulison East says the Supreme Court has spoken and the Trump administration lost. Now she says she needs answers to the questions she's been asking for weeks about the steps the government is taking to facilitate Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release from the Salvadoran prison where he was sent. The judge has now ordered senior officials at ICE, Homeland Security, and the State Department to submit to sworn depositions where they'll have to answer questions posed by Abrego Garcia's attorneys.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Kingston Springs Highway Patrol reporting a crash there in Cheatham County, going to be 40 westbound, just past exit 188. And here on the west end in Nashville, got a crash on the right shoulder. Police say it's 440 westbound, past exit 1. Near the airport, police say a crash is partially blocking the off-ramp 40 eastbound to Donaldson Pike. And then in West Nashville, another crash here, on-ramp partially blocked 40 westbound on-ramp from 46th Avenue, 51st Avenue, exit 205. In Berry Hill, police reporting a crash 440 eastbound before 65. And in Murfreesboro, an accident on the right shoulder, 840 westbound past New Nashville Highway, Northwest Broad Street, exit 55. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I've got Tony on the line with Cabinet Solutions to talk about all things cabinets and much, much more happening in Hendersonville. What's up, Tony? How are you, brother?
How you doing, Matt? I am just out here trying to make people's kitchen great again, man.
I absolutely love it. Tell me, I mean, you got 4,500 square feet of showroom space at Cabinet Solutions. That's a lot of different cabinets, a lot of different brands to choose from, a lot of different price points to go with, right?
That's exactly right. And we can do any room in the house, kitchen, bath, laundry, living room, closets, outdoor, garage. I mean, if you want to put a cabinet in your crawl space, we'll figure it out.
A cabinet in the now that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna call Tony for that one. A cabinet in the crawl space. Plus, man, some of these dressing areas and these closet areas that you've got, and we saw when we toured Cabinet Solutions, this incredible display. I mean, you've just got to see it to understand it. What a great gift to give the loved one in your life. That's the clothes horse. Talk to us about how to schedule an appointment, Tony. It's just as easy as a visit to the website, is it not?
It really is. All you got to do is go to mycabinetsolution.com, go to the contact tab, and fill out a quick and simple form. It comes directly to me. I'll reach out to them and get them in touch with the right person to help them with their project.
There's no better name in the industry than Cabinet Solutions in Hendersonville. Tony is the man with the plan. Go to mycabinetsolution.com. That's mycabinetsolution.com. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks again to Gino Bulso for stopping by. Thanks for Cameron Sexton's appearance on the show as well, a little bit earlier today. We still have lots to get into before 7 o'clock tonight. I'll get into Harvard University. Why are we giving money to Harvard? I don't understand. I mean, I legit don't understand it. Real ID is a pain, but I don't think it's more of a pain in that it took us than getting a passport. I'll discuss that with you. Joe's back. Old Sleepy Joe's back. He could have been my nincompoops in the news today. Apparently it's either given or is giving a speech in Chicago today, his first public address since he was no longer president of the United States of America. Plus, in Arkansas, they are passing legislation, which we need to pass in the state of Tennessee, limiting food stamps in terms of your ability to buy soda pop or candy with your SNAP benefits. That's all on the way, but right now at 39 after the hour, it's time to find those nincompoops.
Nincompoops
oh, look, there he is.
in the news.
Look, I said nincompoops in the news, and I looked up and Joe Biden was on my television screen. How about that?
Watch it, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Don't.
All right, let's get into nincompoops in the news. Find these nincompoops, and you get to vote. 615-737-9986. I'm told, by the way, speaking of nincompoops, that there's a wreck on Old Hickory Boulevard. That's probably every day that ends in Y, right?
Actually, I've got a good one too, boys.
Do you?
Yeah, this one coming from Lebanon. It says that 109 at Martha Leeville Road going to be shut down in both directions for an extended period of time.
Oh, man, 109. That people go too fast on that road, guys. They do. I mean, that road, every time I get on 109, there's people flying down there 75 miles an hour.
You know why I think it is? Because it took them so dadgum long to finish widening it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it used to just be 2 lanes, you know,
Right.
1 lane in each direction all the way from Lebanon to Gallatin. It took them so long to finish that. I think people are like, oh, I'm hauling now.
Well, and the population's caught up with the expansion.
Right. Right. It was out in the middle of nowhere for a minute, and now they've got neighborhoods and a lot of houses and the lake and all that out there. Y'all be careful out there if y'all are out and about. Somebody, Nick, has written in and said, can we make a new law that says if you have a wreck that causes traffic to stop, that you have to collect an ass whooping from everybody trapped behind? No, Nick. No, we don't. No.
I'd like for that to be at the red lights.
Just
if you're first at the red light, you get your ass whipped by everybody behind you.
I mean, or if you're sitting at a red light and the light turns green, and then I give you a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and then I tap my horn.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at your phone, and then you give me the 1 finger salute.
Yes.
Then that's automatic ass whipping.
That's ass whipping.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, don't even bother honking the horn. Just get out and just take care of it.
Start wailing.
No warnings.
Start wailing on them.
The green light was your warning, buddy.
Grab the phone, throw the phone, start wailing.
And then wind up on nincompoops in the news.
Well, that's true. That's a great segue into your nincompoop, Mr. Weaver. I'm going to nominate you to go first.
All right, here we go, boys. Peeved that he had to watch Pets instead of going on vacation.
Oh. This was one that I was going to use. Is that yours too?
This is mine. I was Kid Weaver. Oh, I should have let you go first. Oh. For the first time in Nincompoops in the News history, we both picked the same story. That's awesome. I got another one. I got a backup, though. I'm not worried.
All right. I'm like the guy who's first in line at the red light.
Anyway,
lock that door.
The story. It's a great story. Go, kid. Go.
All right. Peeved that he had to watch Pets instead of going on vacation. A young man lands himself in prison. Upset that he had to watch Pets while his girlfriend's family went on a cruise. A Michigan man was sentenced to 8 months in prison for making a fake bomb threat. Prosecutors say 19-year-old Joshua Lowe sent an email that forced Carnival to check more than 1,000 rooms.
An idiot.
After the ship departed Miami in January of last year. FBI agents traced this email address to Lowe, who was living with his girlfriend's family. He apologized in a separate letter to the judge, saying it was all his fault. He took full responsibility. My bad, Judge.
I mean,
Bobby.
Oh, yeah. That's on. Hey, Judge. It's on me. It's on me, guy.
I'll show them.
It's on me, my guy.
Yeah. Hey, bruh. Hey, bruh.
How are you
Who's
so
got two
dumb?
thumbs and takes responsibility?
How are you so dumb in this day and age that you don't know that this is going to come back to you? They're going to find out that who sent it.
Yeah.
I mean,
send it in an email.
And
what a goofball.
And you don't get over it. I mean, I don't know. Like, that the family's going, right? It didn't come as a surprise to you. One morning, they just didn't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Well, maybe they did.
Or, maybe that's true. Maybe they just I'll just leave Gerald behind.
Gerald.
I guess we should just be thankful that he didn't decide to kill the pets while they were out of town.
That's actually where I was worried the story was going when I looked it up earlier today, but thankfully, no. Dadgummit, Ken Weaver, that's a good one.
That was a good one.
Good one. All right, I'll go next. This is my number 2, but it's a pretty good one, too. A man who believed he was going deaf was stunned to find out that it was a Lego brick that had been lodged in his ear for 20 years causing the problem. I mean, when you think, I just want to submit to you, despite the fact that I admitted that Ken stole my first story, when you think of a nincompoop in the news, wouldn't it be a guy that doesn't realize he has a Lego stuck in his ear? Darren McConkey from Glasgow, Scotland, had been to the doctor regarding hearing loss and had been prescribed antibiotics, assuming that it was an ear infection. Maybe the doctor's the nincompoop.
I was getting ready to say.
I should have seen it.
However, the 30-year-old woke up later in the middle of the night feeling a surge of pressure on the side of his head. To his horror, he felt something dislodge inside of his ear and started to move. He could not have been prepared for what turned out to be the true root cause of his ear infection. Darren thought, I thought my ear had ruptured, he said. The pressure kept building and building until it was unbearable. Then I felt something small and hard pop out. Not a word out of you. Not a word out of either of you. It's a family show, he decided several minutes ago. I felt the object, and I realized it was loose. I thought it was a piece of my inner ear. I was absolutely terrified.
My ear broke.
But as I held the little object in my hand, I used my phone torch.
Flashlight.
His flashlight on his phone.
He's Scottish.
He's Scottish. That's true. To look at it, what it was in the dark. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was a tiny piece of pink Lego covered in wax. With the pain and pressure gone and the sound back in his left ear, his immediate relief turned to confusion. Darren, who said that he had not played with Legos since he was a little boy. I really didn't play with it after the age of 4 or 5. It must have been around the millennium. But since I built anything from a Lego set, he believes that the piece of Lego has been in his ear for 25 years.
And it was probably the only piece he was missing to complete his Lego set.
Well, maybe he can pull one out of his other ear and build something.
At least it was pink. So I guess that maybe that's the excuse for it going unnoticed.
Maybe that's why they couldn't see it, Brother Chris.
I mean, once again, I go back to the piece of lead. I told you about the pencil in my ear and the piece of lead, and they were holding me down there trying to grab onto it and yank it out of there. Man, it hurt. Those doctors with those little pinchers. I don't like them.
Terrible.
Mr. Weber, your nincompoop, sir.
Houston, Texas. A brazen car thief crashed a stolen Dodge Charger into a ditch near Friendswood before arrogantly taunting a neighbor who confronted him. It all began in the early morning hours of Sunday when a couple who work in law enforcement reported their Dodge Charger stolen. Doorbell camera footage from around 3:45 in the morning show a thief rummaging through the car parked on the street before managing to start it and drive away. 2 hours later, Brad Reynolds, a neighbor, heard squealing tires outside of his home. He captured the stolen Charger on cell phone video driving off into his neighborhood on Rex Road near Hope Village Road. You guys know where that is, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, by 7 a.m., the vehicle was nose down in a ditch, and Reynolds approached to get an image of the license plate. Too bad you didn't get my face. It's stolen, a man laughed. It's a stolen vehicle, he repeated in a taunting voice. However, Reynolds had in fact captured a clear image of the thief. That's quite a blooper there. I did get your face, he says. Before running from the scene, the suspect hurled a racial slur and issued a threat. I'll be back for you. I know where you came from.
Oh, no.
I'll be back. The neighbor told the local news station it would be unwise for that gentleman to come back. The Charger was seen severely damaged and could be a total loss, according to the victims. Meanwhile, Harris County Precinct Constable's office is working to identify the suspect, whose face, again, is on video. Both the victims and their neighbor shared the same sentiment that justice must be served and actions have consequences. Reynolds added, the only way you're going to deter crime is to punish it. If you let people steal cars and get away with it, get a slap on the hand, they'll keep doing it. I hope charges are brought. Authorities are continuing their investigation and urge anyone with information to come forward.
You know, we just can't let these folks keep stealing these cars, guys.
No, sir.
I mean, you know what? That guy, that quote that you just read, was that Freddie O'Connell?
It kind of sounded like
it. Kind of sounded like Freddie O'Connell.
When is it any question that you're going to be punished?
I mean, right.
For doing that.
Hey, boy, oh boy. You know what? If they keep stealing these cars, we're going to start doing something about it.
We are going to have to come up with some sort of deterrent.
Some sort of system by which we deter. All right, car thief nincompoop, bomb hoax nincompoop, or Lego nincompoop. Those are your choices. Nincompoops in the news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 615-737-9986. Would love to hear from you. Also, would love to hear from you if you disagree. A lot of folks reacting to the Gino Bulso, Matt Murphy conversation regarding primaries closed or otherwise. I'll continue that conversation coming up in a moment. Plus your calls. It's 10 until 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. J.K. and Erica Brister, oh, boy, they're great owners of U.S. Pest. They have great employees as well. Great employees like Jesse, who came to my home and said, Murphy, we got to get you into U.S. Pest. I said, I'm already with U.S. Pest. I talk about U.S. Pest on a daily basis. Jesse was like, all right, it's great. It was a great reunion. Jesse and the teammates of Jesse's and U.S. Pest, they provide incredible pest control and coverage all across Middle Tennessee, and I want you to be the next satisfied customer. Obviously, the purpose of pest control is to stop pests and bugs from coming into your home and getting on your property. We want to prevent them from causing rodent or insect-borne diseases, either for your family or for your pets. Full-service pest control available. They'll take care of all of those bothersome bugs like ants and ladybugs and mice and silverfish and roaches and other rodents and stink bugs and spiders. Can't stand them. Can't stand them. Common Tennessee pests are bad for business. So let's get with U.S. Pest. Crawl space service and termite protection available as well. All it takes is a telephone call to ask them how you can make the switch to U.S. Pest. 590-1260. 590-1260 is the number, or go to uspest.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only U.S. Pest.
We'll tell you what that federal judge in Maryland says about the deportation of the Salvadoran man. That's coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. It is 56 after the hour, 4 till the top on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you've decided to join us. We've got another hour to go. We'll get into the Harvard mess that's going on. Donald Trump taking on the elites at Harvard University. I legit don't understand why we're giving so much money to Harvard University, but I'll get into that. Plus, I'm wanting your real ID stories in the 6 o'clock hour. I am the guy to talk to you about, to talk with you about this, because I already have my real ID, so I don't know what the big deal is. So I am completely and totally unsympathetic to your plight. I say that with my tongue in my cheek. I mean, I do. When I got my Tennessee ID, I was asked, hey, do you want to go ahead and get your real ID? I said, sure. And, I'd brought, the birth certificate and all that kind of thing. I don't have a birth certificate. I have a certificate of live birth. I realize that that's a different thing. Did y'all know that? Different thing?
Is it really?
I was told that a birth certificate and a certificate of live birth are two different things. But that's all I got. I mean, it does sound the same to me, but that's all I had. And they took it. I mean, that's
good enough. Huh?
Social Security number and, proof of residency, these sorts of things. I don't even know that I remember everything that you need. I think I brought a power bill or something or another. I brought my certificate of live birth. I brought my Social Security card. I brought my valid Alabama license. And I brought my passport. Did I mention my passport? And they said that was enough.
Yeah, that sounds
I mean, I feel like that's all I got. If you want some credit cards, maybe I'll give you some credit cards, whatever. But the real ID has become a real pain for a lot of folks wishing to travel over the next several weeks, as they will not be able to unless they have the real ID if you're flying. Sam is in West Virginia. Sam, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, Sam. Thank you for your hold.
Candy and soda.
I'm sorry, say again? Candy and soda? What? Huh?
Candy and soda. Everything in the grocery store has some version of salt or sugar in it. It should be a no-brainer to turn off the candy and soda, because you can still have plain peaches. You can have a can of chili without the beans. And I've got more.
I'll go you one step further. I can barely hear you, Sam. Call back if we can get into a better situation. We're limited on time because we're almost at the top of the hour news, and we were in a bit of a negative phone situation there.
Did he say something about chili?
He did. He said candy and soda, it should be a no-brainer because you ought to be able to buy chili with no beans.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I prefer beans in my chili.
Yeah, same.
But I try, unlike some, not to make a matter of taste a matter of fact. Think about that while Ken Weaver does the news. Let's not make a matter of taste a matter of fact. I don't like it when people do that. You say, oh, I like blah, 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 and somebody goes, those are awful. Well, I just told you I liked them, so obviously they're not awful to me. Come on. One more hour to go. It's Super Talk.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And former President Biden returning to the national stage in Chicago in his first major speech since leaving office. Biden's addressing new fears about Social Security. I guess fears he says and Democrats say are out there about Social Security amid funding fights in Washington.
Social Security is more than a government program. It's a sacred promise. We made it a sacred promise. 73 million Americans receive Social Security.
There is no one proposing cutting Social Security benefits. A federal judge in Maryland continues demanding answers about the Salvadoran man the U.S. deported. Trump administration claims Kilmar Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, but the judge has said she's seen little to no evidence to back up that claim. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy at today's hearing in federal court.
Some 200 protesters demonstrated outside the federal courthouse here, demanding Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return. His wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura.
I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive.
Frustrated by a lack of answers from the Trump administration, Judge Paula Sinise has now ordered the depositions of 4 senior officials at ICE, Homeland Security, and the State Department. She says she's seen nothing to indicate that the government has been facilitating Abrego Garcia's release under an order the Supreme Court unanimously upheld. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News at U.S. District Court in Greenbelt, Maryland.
Here in Middle Tennessee, Fox 17 says new data shows immigration enforcement's on the rise in Davidson County. It shows 56 people were released to ICE from the Davidson County Sheriff's Office last month. That's the highest monthly total in over a year. ICE detainer requests are also rising, 76 issued in March. Meanwhile, in our nation's capital, President Trump says he's looking into the legality of sending U.S. citizens to Central American prisons.
The White House Tuesday wouldn't give details on how President Trump would follow through on his statements that he would send American citizens convicted of crimes to prisons in El Salvador.
If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the president is looking into this.
He would only consider this, if legal, for Americans who are the most violent, egregious, repeat offenders of crime who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
And a new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention finds autism rates in the U.S. on the rise. Here's science and health reporter Mary Kakatos.
The CDC report shows that in 2022, 1 in 31 kids, an estimated 1 in 31 children, were diagnosed with autism. That is an increase from 2020, in which 1 in 36 kids were diagnosed with autism, and also a rise from 2000, which was 1 in 150 kids.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Lebanon, Highway 109 is closed due to a crash. It's between Hickory Ridge Road and south of Timber Trail Drive. And in Keystone Springs, Cheatham County, Highway Patrol reporting a crash 40 westbound just past exit 88. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is beyond infuriating sitting in our studio. Well, it's not infuriating sitting in the studios. I absolutely love sitting here listening to Ken Weaver's newscast and waiting to thrill you with educational, informational, and entertaining talk radio for the masses on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. But as I'm doing so, as I'm busily preparing the final hour of the broadcast, I look up to my left and just up and to my left. You're watching on Talk TV. It's right over there. It's right over there. Monitor number 3. Now, there's only one in the studio, but I call it monitor number 3.
1 and 2 broke.
I mean, I guess technically that's a monitor.
That's true. It is, yeah.
Okay, so this monitor number 4 then.
I thought that would be number 4.
Okay, sure. So that's 3?
Yeah.
And that's 4?
Yeah.
What number is yours? 8?
I don't know. I lost count.
Yeah, sure. So monitor number 3, I'm looking over my shoulder, and it's everybody wants to talk about this. The only thing, #NeverCNN, I watch so you don't have to, wants to talk about is this one guy that came into the United States illegally and is bearing the consequence of that illegal act some 14 years later. He came in 2011 illegally from El Salvador. He got a little bit of grace in 2019 as he swore that he was no longer a part of a gang affiliation, but the Barrio 18 would come and get him in El Salvador if we sent him back there. And so he said, okay, we won't now. Well, now he has been sent back. There's no future consequence of gang affiliation or consequence of someone coming back at him because the gangs have virtually been eradicated in El Salvador now. And it's all that CNN wants to talk about. They don't want to talk about the many, many successes of the Trump administration eliminating the criminal illegal alien element from our midst. In the meantime, I'll tell you one gem of CNN is Scott Jennings, and I absolutely love watching Scott Jennings on CNN kick butt and take names.
It's an error, and it was a mistake. Look, so this, I think you're speaking about their public view of the case.
I'm telling you that their view of it is that
public.
It's an El Salvador citizen who was sent back to El Salvador, who was in the country illegally, who, according to some people in his long process, which does include an existing deportation order, believes that he has an affiliation with MS-13. As I said, there's no version of this man's life where he comes back. And let me say one more thing. The people that want him brought back need to understand something. If the president of El Salvador releases him, and we do facilitate his return, when he lands in this country, one of two things will happen. He will be arrested, and then he'll either be sent back to El Salvador, where he is now, or some other country that I promise you don't want to go to. He's not going to be allowed to come back and live in this country as though he is a U.S. citizen.
That's literally the definition of tyranny, right? So here's what's going to happen. We're going to throw him in jail. No, there's
wait. The definition of tyranny is that we enforce our illegal alien laws, according to Schmucko on the set with Scott Jennings.
A thing called the rule of law and due process, which has not been followed in this case. And if I have a slightly optimistic take on this, I actually think this is going to come back to bite.
By the way, Jay Michelson, who is the visiting professor at Harvard University.
The Trump administration, because what's going to happen is the next time this goes up the court system, they have absolutely zero credibility to say, don't worry, you can file a habeas petition, you can get your person back. The courts are not going to allow this to happen. And the idea that the Trump administration has the right of fiat to just decide to ship somebody off to another country, that is fundamentally opposed to everything a constitutional democracy.
You know, he's acting as if this person lawfully belonged in the United States of America. This person was only lawfully granted asylum based on the idea that there were gang memberships back in El Salvador that were going to come after him or come after his family at the time in 2019. He had a deportation order then. So what all of this brouhaha is about the feeling that Donald Trump did not do their due diligence, or the Trump administration did not do their due diligence in terms of the due process afforded this illegal alien from El Salvador.
They have the ability to deport people who have deportation orders, do they not? He got due process. He has a deportation order.
But then why didn't they make that argument?
A withholding of his removal order, so he was in the country.
Why did he have a withholding?
Because an immigration judge ruled that.
But why? What was the argument? Because he was fearful of a gang that hasn't existed in El Salvador for 4 years. There's more.
That's exactly right. His justification for the hold on the deportation order, and it was that a hold, and Scott Jennings gets it exactly right, as he normally does on #NeverCNN. The justification was that there was a hold on his deportation because of gang activity in El Salvador, his home country. That gang activity no longer exists, and so the Trump administration is well within its right to deport him back to his country of origin because he entered the United States of America illegally. And the only reason that there is so much focus and attention on this one individual is because the mainstream media believes that the Trump administration did not do this in the proper fashion, and they believe that they can make the Trump administration look bad. What they don't highlight are the number of success stories with criminal illegal aliens, not just the illegal activity of coming into the country, but illegal activity since they've been in the country, the deportation of so many of those individuals. So we got that on the table for you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Now, I understand that for some of you, Real ID has become a pain in the BUTT. For some of you. For others, for those of us who have already gotten it, we're kind of, I think we're being a little bit snotty about the whole thing. Do you have your Real ID?
Yes.
Do you feel like you're being a little bit condescending to these people who don't?
You just don't care? I guess so, yeah. I don't have any sympathy for them. It's not like it hasn't been hanging around for the last 6 years or whatever it is.
There you go.
I've had mine for 4 years, I think.
That's what I'm talking about, Weber. That's what I'm talking about. Ken Weaver.
Yes, sir.
Do you have your Real ID, sir?
I do not.
You planning on traveling by plane at any point in the near future?
I am not.
Well, then you're fine. You'll be all good.
I don't like flying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know really anybody that does, honestly. Kind of.
But I probably would if I could afford it.
I don't know. I mean, Weaver, there was a point there where I would have suggested to you it might be cheaper to fly to Tulsa, Oklahoma than it would be to drive with the gas
Well,
prices.
come to think of it, they do have direct flights now.
Do they?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
So maybe I should get that Real ID.
The Real ID, don't do it anytime soon because it's become somewhat of a pain in the fanny. And several of you are asking the question, can you not fly with a passport if you don't have a Real ID? 100% you can fly with a passport if you don't have a Real ID. Oh, where did she go? Here it is, Kathy. Kathy is very upset about this situation. And I don't know that Kathy's upset with me or with Chris Weber for acting snotty and condescending because we have our little star on our Real ID. And by the way, I don't know. I mean, the suggestion is it's going to make flying safer. It's going to make travel safer. I don't know that this makes anything safer. I don't really understand. I mean, it was born in the aftermath of 9/11. That's how old this is. I mean, I want to say the legislation was passed in 2005. Maybe my time frame's wrong, and I'll stand corrected if that's so. But I think that all of this started in 2005. I remember as far back as 5-6 years ago seeing news stories about this in Alabama and all over the country. And once again, I'm not wagging my finger, casting aspersions. I understand why people wouldn't think anything of it. But then there's Kathy's story. Kathy says Real ID is discriminating to women. All right. Men don't change their names when they marry. I can't get mine because I've been married more than once and no longer have my marriage or divorce decrees from 40 years ago. I spent money and ordered my marriage certificates back in December from Vital Records, and they've never arrived, and I can't get an answer from anyone there. It's a mess. I have a trip planned in July and will not be able to fly. Someone said get a passport, they said. Well, that doesn't work because everywhere to get one is booked with appointments until August. Yikes. Oh, says Kathy, and I didn't wait till the last minute. I started working on this last fall. I had no idea it would be this difficult and thought I could simply do it when my driver's license expired this past February. Nope. And at this point, there's no one to actually help you or answer any questions. All you can do is take the day off, stand in line all day at the DMV, be rudely turned away because you don't have a marriage or divorce certificate. So, Kathy, if you're listening, and sincerely I'm asking this question, so your name, you're using, if I understand Kathy correctly, the name on your driver's license is different than the name on your Social Security card and your birth certificate. So why wouldn't you just use the name on your Social Security card and your birth certificate? I don't know. I mean, I get what's different. So the name that you're currently going by is your married name, and that's different than your birth certificate and your Social Security card. And because of that difference, you need to present, in addition to the birth certificate and Social Security card, you need to present a marriage certificate or a divorce decree. Why would you need a divorce decree?
I think it would have both your married name on it.
I'm confused. I mean, I guess if you want to stick with the married name, I guess I'm not confused. I think maybe I'm overthinking this. Kathy, call me. Kathy says same as social. I don't know what that means. My name, Mindy writes in and says, my name is the same on my Social Security card as it is at my current name. I think what you have to do is get your name, you have to get your Social Security card changed. You know what? This is beginning to feel like a trip to the DMV with Matt Murphy trying to dissect all of this. 615-737-9986. Joshua says, because you had to follow each step where your name changed, I do fingerprints in Hendersonville, and you have to show each time where your name changed. Oh, okay, so you have to follow the name changes, Joshua. Her name is not legally her birth name anymore because she's married. Oh, I see. I would just omit the married part and just go back to the legal birth name. I don't know. Kathy says you have to present documentation for every time your name has changed since birth. What? Okay, that seems... Okay, Kathy, you've won me over. That seems ridiculous. What about the Elizabeth Taylors of the world? Oof. I mean, my goodness.
That would take a while.
That would take a minute. I think Elizabeth Taylor was married, 9 times?
It's a bunch.
9 times, including both Burtons. Same guy, Richard Burton. So, yeah, it was a lot. I would suggest that is insane. So, Kathy, I am right there with you. That is absolutely discriminatory, and someone needs to file a lawsuit. I recommend Kathy. It's 20 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine delivered the right way. I love Grace Point Healthcare, love promoting the way that they do their business. I loved them from the moment I walked into their doors, right in the heart of Franklin. I saw Dr. Rob and the rest of the team at Grace Point. What a great group of people. And they truly care about the patients that come through their doors. It is why they're a direct pay primary care provider. All the treatment decisions are made between you and the medical staff, not your insurer. You can obviously file at a later time for reimbursement. Basic Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. They're just $69 a month. It includes free office visits for the entire year, free basic labs and diagnostic testing as well. I mean, this is the way to get it done, folks, because they are not beholden to pharmaceutical or insurance. They're going to treat you, and you are their customer, not the insurance industry and not the pharmaceutical industry, which is a nice, refreshing change to the way that it's being done in so many different facilities around the state of Tennessee. Get to the heart of Franklin and get with Grace Point Healthcare. They're a military veteran-owned practice as well. I love that. Patients are treated naturally whenever possible. I love that. And they are ready for an appointment with you. 599-6868, 599-6868. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way.
Metro Police seeking a grant they say will help reduce the murder rate in Nashville by 10%. This story in the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Larry writes in on the Super Text line and says, I slept through nincompoops who won. I'm proud to announce that Matt Murphy won today.
Way to go, Brother Murphy.
I picked a story up off the bench, and won with it.
I don't even remember what your story was.
Lego Man.
Oh, yeah.
Lego in the year. Yeah, for 25 years. I can't believe it, but I think if my math is correct, you were in second place, Chris.
Really?
I cannot believe that Ken Weaver. Well, that goes to show you that if Ken Weaver's digging in the bottom of the barrel and picking stories that Matt Murphy would select.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
trying to steer away from naked people.
I mean, naked.
But it's an interesting strategy, Ken. I don't know how it's going to work
Weaver,
out.
you realize that you are well in the lead.
Yeah, with naked stories.
With those types of stories. You have a generous lead over second place Chris Weber. And Matt Murphy, I've won like 4 times in the history of Nincompoop. So
I might have to go back to naked stuff.
That's what she said. 26 minutes after the hour. Speaking of she's, a lot of people of the female persuasion responding. They said, don't make fun, Murphy. This is no joke for women. And I stand apologetic and corrected. This is not a hill I'm going to die on, but apparently for ladies, this is a much bigger deal, especially ladies that have been married on a couple of occasions and divorced on a couple of occasions because their name changes at each time for marriage and divorce, and you have to demonstrate marriage and divorce for each change of name, apparently. Man, that's tough. Mindy has a thought on it. Hey, Mindy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for calling in.
I've got a funny story about this. I have the exact same problem. But what's funny about it, it's not funny, but what is funny is me, my kids, and my husband, we like to go on cruises. I have been on multiple cruises in and out of this country. I don't have to have a passport to the places we go to. But I can get through customs without that real ID. They've had no problem with taking my birth certificate, my Social Security card that has my current married name. But I can't get a real ID because of all of the divorce, my first divorce, and my name change back to my maiden name, and then my marriage again, and then following the divorce decree and the name change. Even though the driver's license center has seen all that information previously, because that's how I changed my driver's license since marriage and divorce and marriage, but they have to have it at the time you go to get the real ID. I didn't keep my marriage certificate from my ex-husband in the divorce decree, and it has been a misery trying to get it through the state, but I can get through customs, no problem.
I mean, it's enough to keep a woman from flying. You know?
I haven't had to fly but twice in my whole life, but still, just in case if we're on a cruise and something happens and I need to fly, I need that real ID. But, I have no problem getting in and off a boat, but I can't get a real ID.
Do you have a passport?
I went to get a passport right before COVID hit, and I was going on a trip with my best friend, and during COVID, they canceled it, my appointment, and they canceled all that stuff. My best friend died during COVID, not COVID related. So I couldn't bring myself to okay, well, why do I need a passport again? That was the reason why I haven't been able to, that was, we were going on a girlfriend trip. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I don't have a reason to right now. But maybe I need to start thinking about it again because maybe that'll be the easier way to go than
the reason that I ask, Mindy, and that's an incredible story, that it's odd that you can go through customs and you have all the appropriate documentation, but you can't get the same through the Real ID process. And thank you for the call. The reason I ask about passports is it easier to get a passport than it is to get a Real ID for ladies? Ladies, when you go to get a passport, if your birth certificate is different, I forget what information you need. I got my passport in 2019, and I forget why. I don't know if we were planning on a trip overseas or whatever. But anyway, I renewed my passport in 2019. It's a 10-year renewal. So I don't really remember what we needed. I think I just needed a birth certificate and a driver's license, but for guys, it would be different. So for ladies, do you need to demonstrate all of these steps when you get a passport is the question. Because if you don't, I think we know our answer. Except it doesn't work for people like Kathy, because Kathy, sadly, she can't get an appointment until August for the passport people. I don't know what to tell Kathy. Kathy, I hope that where you're going doesn't involve water, because I think you're going to have to drive. Karen and Scarlett, I'll get to you in a moment. It is 6:30. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. News 2 says Metro Police will ask Metro Council for permission to apply for a grant that's dedicated to identifying gang members and their networks and then disrupting their activities. Police claim this will help bring down the homicide rate by at least 10% in Nashville. Police in Nashville say they've seen triple-digit numbers of murders each of the past 3 years, most of them in the East Hermitage North and South precincts, and they've identified more than 700 individuals they believe are interconnected with that violence. A federal judge in Maryland continues demanding answers about the Salvadoran man the U.S. sent to be imprisoned in his home country without facing any criminal charges here or there. The Trump administration claims Kilmar Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, but the judge has said she's seen little to no evidence to back up that claim. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy was at today's hearing. He says the judge says top U.S. officials involved in this case must now face questions in sworn depositions. Entertainment news.
And now from Television City in Hollywood, here's your host on Gambit, Wink Martindale.
And yes, TV and radio host Wink Martindale has passed away. He was 91. Money News, Michelle Franzen.
Markets closed modestly lower when compared to the extreme swings over the past few weeks. The Dow lost 156 points. The S&P dipped 9 points. The Nasdaq was nearly even. The U.S. bond market showed signs of calm after sharp moves last week that raised concerns. The value of the U.S. dollar also steadied after its fall last week. Investors were focused on a slew of corporate earnings. Albertsons fell almost 8% despite reporting a stronger profit for the latest quarter than analysts expected. It's because the company behind Safeway and Vons also gave a forecast that's short of expectations. Healthcare company DaVita dipped nearly 3% after reporting a ransomware attack over the weekend. The company still investigating the scope of that intrusion. On the winning end was Bank of America, which added 4% after reporting stronger profit for the latest quarter than what analysts expected.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, Lebanon, we got a big problem there on Highway 109. It is single-line traffic, alternating directions. It's between Hickory Ridge Road and south of Timber Trail Road. That's because of a crash there. That's Highway 109 between Hickory Ridge Road and south of Timber Trail Road. Also here in Nashville, an accident, left lane blocked, 24 eastbound right before Murfreesboro Pike. 24 eastbound at James Robertson Parkway over on the East Loop and then near the airport. Police reporting a crash, 40 eastbound there at exit 216A. Kingston Springs, Cheatham County. Highway Patrol reporting a crash, 40 westbound past exit 188. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Friends, I am so pleased to tell you about this incredible Roll Call 3.0 coming to Nashville this May, 2nd and 3rd, hosted by Jason Whitlock, whom you've heard on my show. You've heard on all of the, well, I think he's been on with Chad and with Chris as well, talking about his visit with Tucker Carlson that is on the way. It's a 2-day event. You don't want to miss it. It's more than just a conference. It truly is a call to action, as Jason describes it. Roll Call 3.0 is about uniting bold, faith-driven men to stand strong in today's culture. It kicks off Friday, May 2nd. It's a VIP evening at 3rd and Lindsley, featuring a conversation with Whitlock, Tucker Carlson, live country music from Randy Houser, comedian Steve Byrne. On Saturday, May 3rd, the event moves to Rocketown, a full day of inspiration, insight, and high-impact speakers. And then Roll Call 3.0 concludes with a VIP post-event dinner, an exclusive opportunity to connect with Jason and the Duggar Band. You know, you heard Duggar Band on our show the other day, and they're going to be out with Jason at this VIP dinner. Friends, Roll Call 3.0 is about faith, fellowship, and fearless conversation. It's a place to grow stronger in your beliefs and connect with like-minded people. For more information, we want you to go to fearlessrollcall.com. Tickets are available right now. Don't forget to use offer code 997. Fearlessrollcall.com. You get a special discount if you use offer code 997. Fearlessrollcall.com. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk to you for a moment about my friend Shane Ring at Cover Nash. Shane is located right here in Middle Tennessee. He is a local expert when it comes to not only opting into health plans, but also becoming educated on what plans are right for you and your family, what you really need, and how much you should be spending for any medical procedure or for any visit, because you could literally make money as a result of understanding these dynamics. When you book your appointment with Shane, he'll go over all of the available health plan options on the market today. You don't have to wait for this open enrollment. As a matter of fact, there's a plan available for you right now based on your health and your financial need. No more call center. Don't trust a call center. Don't trust someone in a faraway place. Trust Shane Ring. You can put your trust in him. Shane is the man with multiple plans, and he'll find the right one for you. 615-465-0023. 615-465-0023, or go to covernash.com. That's covernash.com. Shane Ring will help you find and create a health care plan managed by you, not by the government. That's the way it ought to be. It's Shane Ring and Cover Nash. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just got the old point from Weaver. Always like that.
Made it official, huh?
Oh, yeah. That's when I know it's real.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the waning moments of the Matt Murphy Show for another day. Me and you, Weber.
It's all that's left.
It's all that, just the last of the heroes. Of course, we're not here at 5 o'clock in the morning either. I don't want to.
Not anymore. No. I did my time.
How long did you do?
It's about 3.5, 4 years.
Never got used to it, did you?
Not really.
I didn't either.
Yeah. It just kind of turned my day upside down. And I didn't like it because I'm a very creature of habit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like my days and I like my nights. I don't like to mix them up.
I absolutely loved the ability, and we're talking about getting up early in the morning and doing your work early, because I used to do mornings back in Birmingham. Chris used to do mornings here at Super Talk. And, you get up early, and I loved it that the work happens immediately, after you're up.
Yep.
You're engaged into work. The one thing that I would say about this dynamic is that you get up and I have to accomplish home-based tasks first.
Yes.
And sometimes that's weird.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I agree with that.
And so I feel like I'm holding, I want the best of Murphy between 3 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of holding back on the other stuff. And then I get really awake at about 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So in that regard, this schedule fits me. But then I feel very guilty when I get up at 7:30 in the morning. I don't know. I'm 51 years old. I shouldn't, but like I stay up till 12:30 or 1, and then I'll wake up at 7:30 or 8, and I feel guilty.
Wow.
But I'm getting the same amount of sleep, just a little bit,
Just shifted a little bit.
Just shifted a little.
Yeah.
Don't tell Dan Mandis I missed most of his show. Give him a complex. By the way, I don't understand this, and so I just put a question mark to it on Super Talk line, and I'll get back to your phone calls in a second. This is what I got from 7351. As an administrator, I'm supposed to check IDs, and this one guy showed me his ID. It was from a different country. I thought it was curious, so I took a picture. Within 2 hours, I got a call from the home office. I explained it was curious. They told me not to do it anymore. So now I don't check it at all these at all. So now I never check IDs. I figure I'm just one administrator of money, and one of the other administrators should have caught it. So no big dealio, not my problem. And so, all right, put that aside for a second. That was one text. And then the next text 3 minutes later was, ew, wavy fingers. Was that for me, do you think?
I don't know.
And I just responded with a question mark because I don't know what wavy fingers mean.
Ken does the wavy fingers thing after he wraps his newscast.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, it's kind of his, when he does his sign-off, WTN News, he'll do the wavy fingers.
Oh, well, maybe that's what that's what they were talking about. 7351, let us know. Karen is in Smyrna with a thought on Real ID. Hello, Karen.
Hey, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for calling in.
See, when I went to get my Real ID a week or so ago, and of course I went out of county to an out-of-county DMV to get it so that, the city was a little bit more busy. But the good thing was when I was a young woman and I first got married, my parents told me, drop your middle name, use your maiden name as your middle name. You'll understand why years from now. Well, they were right because I didn't have a lot of problem. I'd been married twice, and because my middle name now was my maiden name and is now, every piece of paper that I had, my maiden name was on everything. So even though I didn't have all of my marriage licenses, the lady says, I'm going to let you go through because you got your maiden name on everything. And it was, it took 2 hours, but it was worth it. Everybody who was there were nice. They didn't act like they were, upset because there were so many people there. They moved us through really fast. And I felt like 2 hours wasn't bad, but I appreciate my parents telling me that, And I don't, like I said, it's not hyphenated. It's just my middle name is my maiden name, and it has been ever since I got married the first time. So. And
that helped you slide through because the names.
Yes, because she at first she said, "Where's your first marriage license where your name was this?" And I go, "Well, I don't have it." And she goes, "Well, you know what? I'm gonna let you slide because you got your maiden name is on here. It's your middle name." And she let me go through, and she told him
that's a good trick.
She said, when you go to the next line, if you have any trouble, just tell them I said it was okay, and it worked. I mean, she let me get it, and I have it now. Yeah,
like it, Karen. Good tip. I appreciate that. I second the maiden name as middle. I've done that for ages, says 3425. Joshua writes in and says, yes, that's a good trick. Joshua also indicating that for the passport, yes, females have to do all of that same stuff in order to get their passport. To Kathy, I would ask you, who is your congressperson? Because Kathy, and I would like to take credit for this, but I cannot. A super texter wrote this in, that for your circumstance, you've been trying since last fall. You've gotten issues with your maiden name and all of these types of things. It is possible if you contacted your congressperson and explained the situation, whether it's Green or Ogles or Rose or Desjardins. I would assume it's one of those four if you're in Middle Tennessee. Contact them, and they probably won't do this for everybody. I maybe shouldn't say anything about it on the radio, but under specialty circumstances, they might help you jump the line on the passport. And I think yours is perhaps a specialty circumstance. So, I mean, I think this is a last, it's maybe a last option for you, but there you go. 4705 says, my real ID took 5 minutes in Rutherford, but I already have a passport and I brought all kinds of documents. Well, yeah. I mean, for most of us, you've got all that stuff handy. The fly in the ointment here apparently is with women and with their inability to track. Because I get it. I mean, I suppose, why in the hell would you keep a marriage license for a marriage that didn't work?
Or at least keep the divorce decree, though.
I mean, I guess that would suffice.
That would get the job done, yeah.
For that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so. Scarlett is next up. Scarlett, what's going on?
Hey, Matt. First of all, I love our ex exchanges, but that's not why I'm calling. I was one of the first people to get Real ID. I didn't have any issues because I had everything with me I needed. But there was a gentleman that was in front of me in line that had been married 8 times. And he was getting his Real ID. Yes, I said 8.
8 times.
Uh-huh. And he went through the same process that I did. And the gentleman that was that was the clerk for the state of Tennessee, explained to him that he had to have a copy of each of his marriage licenses and divorce decrees for all 8 marriages.
Wait, so why would he brought all that stuff?
No, and the man was flabbergasted. He told the guy, he says, and this gentleman had to be in his 60s, okay? And he said to this guy, he said, I don't even remember where I married 4 of those women. How do you expect me to get those marriage licenses?
I don't understand why he would have needed. Did he change his name?
He asked the man why he needed it. And even I asked him when I got up there. And the clerk told me that the reason you have to have all of this documentation is because what they're keying into the system goes into Homeland Security. And it has to match up with all the information Homeland Security already has on you. And if you go to get a passport for the first time, you have to do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're male or female.
Wait, no, I've been married. I've been married twice. I mean, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but that's just not true. I mean, I've been married twice.
When did you get your first passport, though?
I renewed an expired passport in 2019. I got my Star ID in the state of Tennessee in 2022.
Okay, well, this is people recently, not anybody that's ever had a passport before 2019 or before any time in the past 30 years.
Am I hearing you correctly that if you're a male and your name is not changed, you have to document all of your previous marriages?
Yes, you do, and divorces. And I've had another friend that's been married 4 times. That's a male that has had to go through the same thing. He went to get his real ID, and he had to do the same thing.
That's fascinating.
Be aware.
Well, I mean, this is brand new to me, Scarlett. I'm fascinated by that.
I was flabbergasted that a man would have to do that. I understood a woman having to do that because I've been married and divorced, and when I went, I took my marriage license and my divorce decree with me because I knew to do it. But if you don't know these things and you're a man, and I watched this man say it, and it was a male clerk that renewed my Tennessee driver's license into a real ID, and he was having to tell all the men and the females that had been married before to come in there and bring that with them.
All right, we are. You know what we're doing tonight, Scarlett? We're giving Chris Webber work to do. Because Chris Webber is going to have to find us someone to come on the radio and clear all of this stuff up.
Well, I can tell you right now, Matt, that I did not have to do that. I've been married twice, and I didn't have to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think that person at that office
Maybe they were
gave
confused,
them some bad
Scarlett?
information.
I mean, is it possible they were confused? I don't know.
No, this man was not confused that was doing this.
Okay.
Because there were a couple of people by him that were telling people the same thing. And I got my Tennessee ID, like my real ID. I was one of the first people to do it when they first came out and told us we were going to need it before all the extensions have occurred. I mean, mine's going to be up for renewal next year.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm getting and Scarlett, I appreciate you. I'm not doubting your sincerity and your call. I'm just getting a lot of conflicting information on the super text line in real time as we talk. I don't know. I did not go through that in 2022. I got my real ID in 2022 in the state of Tennessee, and nobody asked me about. Maybe they asked me if my name had ever changed. I mean, but I don't recall them asking me that. So I don't doubt your sincerity, Scarlett, but I don't know if that's the case. Joshua says it depends, and Joshua seems to be somewhat of an expert on all of this. And I'm not being flip. I'm being serious. And Joshua says it depends on what you're getting done. If you're doing TSA pre-check or no, nobody's doing TSA pre-check. Joshua, get that out of here. I understand TSA pre-check. I mean, but I don't think they would. Why would TSA pre-check? I mean, no offense to Scarlett or anyone else. I mean, Scarlett, I appreciate you listening, and I don't doubt your sincerity in what you're saying, but I don't think that's right.
I think that person at that office was
badly mistaken.
Was confusing men and women and what documentation is needed. Because, I didn't have to do that.
And I didn't have to do that either.
And I don't have a passport and have never had a passport, so that didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, and I would say to Miss Scarlett that the number of men that are writing in right now on this 100,000 watt radio station on the super text line that are saying nope, no, nope, no, then either that person's right and nobody else is doing it, or that person's wrong. It's 51 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yeah, boy, there are a lot of diagnoses out there. There's a pill for everything. Not all diagnosis is an accurate one, and if not all pills are good for you either. And if you're getting a diagnosis for your European car and you want a second opinion, it's time to get one with Eurofix. They're the home for second opinions. Now, I think they should be your first opinion, but if they're not, before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair, it is time to get to Aaron Stokes and Eurofix. It can not only save your vehicle's life, but save you a lot of stress and a lot of money. Life's too short to get stressed out and angry. Be happy. Go to Eurofix. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection. They go over from tip to stern and make sure they understand what's going on, and they give you an estimate at every visit. Never any high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you also get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. 100 Oaks, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet, 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myyurofix.com. That's myyurofix.com. Hey, I'm going to the Fairfield Inn over here, the Up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're invited too, by the way. Redheaded stranger just invited you.
Oh, well. Sorry.
I probably told you late.
Yeah, a little late.
That's on me.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone anyway.
And that's on you.
I mean, just saying.
I gave you an out. I gave you the, hey, that's on me. And you could have said, yeah, Murphy, you should have told me earlier or I would have gone. And instead, when you went that way. Okay.
Everybody would have known anyway.
Y'all are welcome to, that's true. Y'all are welcome to stop by if you'd like. Up is hosting, Americans for Prosperity. They are hosting a localized event. Ben Cunningham, local tax advocate that we had on earlier in the week, will be there. And I'm going to be there as well. It is an attempt to generate some steam behind the idea that Davidson County does not need a property tax increase. And Freddie O'Connell is preparing for a property tax increase. And I think the conversation will center around that tonight. And I think the first drink is on AFP, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, there's a little bit of incentive right there. So stop by. I'll be heading that way right after the show. It's right down from the friendly studios of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So there is no consensus on any of this, but there is a commitment to me to volunteer Chris Webber to find a person somewhere out there that can explain this to us. What information do you need to get a real ID? What documentation do you need to bring with you to get a real ID? And we're going to cover whether you're a male or a female, or, other. What happens if you're an other? My goodness. Well, what happens if your pronouns have changed, for goodness sake? You don't get to fly anymore. Last on Real ID, says Dale. Oh, my gosh. Did you ask the ladies, were they by chance from East Tennessee? It's hard to trace lineage and identity from over there. Oh, Dale. Wow. That is harsh. Not unusual in many parts of the country for fathers and brothers to take the same name. Dale. I should stop reading this. Then he says, Roll Tide, Nico, wherefore art thou, Nico? Now, see, Dale's just a hater.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Dale's just a hater. Row tie, Dale. Row tie. That's going to wrap it up for our Tuesday edition. We'll be back tomorrow if they let us. Until then, Mark Levin is next. Come see us at Up. Have a great evening, folks. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.